जला है जिस्म जहां दिल भी जल गए होंगे, कुरेदते हो अब खाक, जुस्तजू क्या है। रगों में दौड़ने फिरने के हम नहीं कायल, जब आंख ही से न टपका तो फिर वो लहू क्या है। With Iqbal's that couplet, I welcome you all into the Sheetalnath Conversation Sunday evening 7 p.m. IST show. From the beacon of Sheetalnath Conversations, I rise to greet uh, all the wonderful, esteemed, erudite associates of Sheetalnath Conversations at the arrival of our 98th illustrious show. It has been a very, very interesting and joyful journey together, exploring and exciting one. We have meandered, into this salubrious avenues and mysterious alleys. Those lie dormant into forlorn, unknown, forlorn, forgotten bays of our civilization and history. Our programs have been very wisdomful. The people who just conducted our programs, our guests, have been people of great honor, great dignity, integrity, and honesty. They have been able to catapult the wonderful bright spots in our civilization, in our backyard, to a very different, to a very, very, communicable presentation style, anecdotal style, and they have employed all their scholarship, insight, brilliance into it. So it is all because of all the guests and all of you together that Sheetal Conversation is ambled into something very special for the viewers who are its constant followers and admirers. It has been, we have almost touched all the contours ranging from treatises to travelogues to chronicles to art, literature, musicology, waterways, landscape, ecology, archaeology, architecture, and, flora and fauna, landscape, colors, folklore, folk memory, transitions, turbulences, and monarchies, and many, many wonderful aspects of the civilization, many, many wonderful, streaks of this mosaic known as civilization in this part of the country known as crown of India, crown and cradle of India. Having said that, I feel that we till now all our programs and all our conversations has been able to uh, give a very, very large, cathedral for the researchers of different varied subjects uh, into varied fields, especially mostly related to Kashmir and its ancient wisdoms and glory, and many, many aspects, including spirituality and all other dimensions. I think that personally feeling I have always remained, a humanist at core. Because I was a person during my academics also. People used to tell me that Jugalji, you are a global by outlook. I always felt that humanity is one. A person born on a mountain, his eyes become small. A person born near tropical areas, his skin becomes dark. Otherwise, we are the same. I mean, our cultures make us different. Our traditions make us different. The religions we are born make us different. But otherwise, at the core, the human tendencies, human behavior, it is almost the same. So I have been always trying to avoid some uh, dark spots in the checkered history of humanity, because they may create disarray and kind of a discomfort with one section of people and one prodigy or another prodigy. So I always try to avoid it. But one of the great scholar author had always advised me that Jugalji, unless and until you look to the history, you go to the history, you cannot know what your follies are. And in a way, that's very true. Because unless and until we look ourselves in the mirror, the history is like a mirror. When we look ourselves in the mirror, we know how to evolve, how to move into the, move forward in the life, move on into life as a humanity, and we understand the future of humanity by understanding the history better. If we approach it with dispassionate temperament, without any prejudice or subjectivity, that's how history is. And but I would like to, in lighter vein, I will tell you one more thing. During my days, in academic days, I was less into the class, more into the library, more into the small shops who used to give us booklets, small books, and maybe from comics to literature to art to wit. And of course, we used to steal from our mother's shelf as well as father's shelf. But at that time, I had a very romanticizing idea of Second World War, First World War, partition of India, because I was in teens, I was excited. But later on, when I grew serious, when I really matured, I could understand what a holocaust, what a bestial, inhuman, and barbaric these events had been to the history of humanity, to the recent history of humanity. I mean, you could see that. The Nazis, the concentration camps, the Gestapo, the gas chambers, human arrogance, racial arrogance, dominating one race over the other. This was coming from none other than one of the most civilized part of our planet, Europe. And later on, its fallout was very hard, and people had died. There were rapes, there were molestations. A lot of people vanished. And even in our partition, you could see almost 14 million people. They got displaced from one place to another place. They left their hearths, homes, and some of them, almost 1 million, estimation is 1 million around people vanished. They were murdered. They were killed in this, mad race, which was created by some ambitious politicians. I won't name. It's not a political show, neither it's a religious show, but how humanity fights with each other, and roots are somewhere else. The root is somewhere else. That is very, very suffocating to me. I was just thinking that this whole imageries of Second World War, partition, as a child, it had impressionate, indelible impressions in my heart, in my subconscious mind. These imageries remain there, and sometimes it returns back. But by and large, I felt that today, I felt that this is a very, very far bestial situation, which has not happened in our place, and we are safe. But then suddenly, this all these those all imageries of the Holocaust, of the Second World War, First World War, partition, they again emerged and bombarded my conscious plane, and I was really shuddered, because these things shuddered. I was frozen, because these things had happened in our vicinity, in our neighborhood. And I had a very faint, remote idea of some kind of a linear thing, some kind of a small time space thing, some kind of a an incidental uh, you know mindset about this particular incident. And the scale, when I go through of this book, when I read, I could understand. This is the Pakistan's invasion on J&K 1947-48, untold stories of the victims. It opened up entire Pandora's box, and I could see the scale and intensity of loot, arson, casualties, concentration camps like Nazi concentration camps, like in Ali Beg, and many, many places, entire periphery of this Jammu and Kashmir, when it was arbitrarily invaded by Pakistan's rank and file of Pakistan army, guided by some British officers, and they had a column of these bestial medieval uh, these people, known as Kabalis, tribals known as Kabalis, and they surpassed every limit, every human barbaric limit. I mean, people died. They created mass suicide. Some women fell. They were drowned. They threw themselves on the rivers, Jhelum River and other rivers in Mirpur and other places. And the whole situation was very. There are many, 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 many chilling stories which I have seen in this book. And this is something which probably shows a mirror of one humanity to another. Only the geography has changed, but it was not less than what happened into the Nazi Germany, what happened into the Europe in just few years back, and the partition in rest of our country. This is a wonderful book. I think this book will remain in the annals of the history of Indian or the international history, because this is based on very, very authentic, extensive research, collaborated by the evidence, first hand information, second hand information, and then the first hand interviews with the victims, their families, their kith and kin, and this entire mosaic of cruelty, the saga of cruelty which went along the entire periphery of Jammu and Kashmir after Pakistan arbitrarily invaded. This has created this everything has been told minute by minute detail in this book, and you must be amazed to know this book has taken almost quarter of a century to complete. Its research is very, very authentic, because it has been written by none other than Dr. Ramesh Tamiri. Who doesn't know Ramesh Tamiri ji? Ramesh Tamiri is a very well-known scholar, extensive scholar, intensive scholar, who is into the research of history and politics of Kashmir, and he goes into the very, very minutest details and deciphers everything. You can see even the bibliography in this book, and the rest, the closing chapters on this book, where it's closed, where he has given the minutest possible detail of the information, of the interview, of the memoirs of the people who came with the stories, with this atrocities, this Holocaust which had happened at that point of time when entire ethnic cleansing happened. This was a humanity against humanity. It has nothing to do with caste, creed, color, religion. That this shames us, this equals us to the Nazis. Thing. So, as a student of history, as a researcher, as a critic, also, I really felt that this masterpiece should certainly go to the different quarters of our public life. It should go to the sociologists to understand what happened with this social disruption, and it should go to the intelligence people to understand the complacency and other aspects, the people who backbited and stab. It should also go to the international forums and make understand, to evolve human as a better race, so that we remain very cautious in the future, that we are not entrapped into such kind of a bullish, dangerous carnages which is created ultimately by human mind, by utilizing and using religion and other aspects of our life. So this is very tragic. So somewhere down the line, I feel that this Tamiri Saab has done a very human service for all of us, and this was a kind of a book which will remain guiding lot many people, the researchers, the policymakers of the country and the world, to understand how things work. You can imagine Indian National Army people, Indian National Army governed by, commanded by Netaji. Those people were part of this conspiracy, and then there were people from the Mirpur, those were part of the communists, with the claim that they wanted to create a kind of a hegemony, and they wanted to enter the Muslim League, and they wanted to have a power controlled by them. They became part of they did the major role in this entire thing. I had gone through this book, but and how can one cannot even imagine, the kind of a situation it has been created in this time, that it will be remembered for eons of times to go, because it was not a war, it was not a conflict between, it is just a one-sided people. They came, they aggressed, and they understood the weaknesses of Maharaja, and there was a desertation was created. People were killed, they were taken captives, women were sold. I mean, what else is there in a Holocaust. 35,000 people were eliminated. It's not the quantity; it is the intensity of the brutality which these people evolved, and they are the human beings. I sometimes fail to understand the medieval. We live in different civilization. Really, we live in different civilization, different centuries. Somebody is in the medieval time, somebody is in the 8th century, somebody is still in the 4th century. And this is something which really hurts me. Regarding Tamiri Saab, I've already told that he is a very, very well-known researcher, scholar. His one of his famous books is about the theater and paintings of Kashmir, and he has been very popular amongst the literati of the country and the state. He has an association with very, very tall personalities, from whom he got inspired. He has also been he had a very, 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 very basic research into the Iqbal in one of his articles, which I have also researched further. And he's a man with many, many facets, and probably he has a wonderful library at his place which has more than 7,000 books from very varied sections and varied streams. And that is something which is very, 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 very something which is very rare and unique about Tamiri Saab. He's basically an ophthalmologist by profession, an alumnus from Government Medical College Srinagar, where he did his MBBS, and alumnus from Government Medical College Jammu, where he did his MD. His primary education has been into the Kangda district of Himachal. So there are many things about him. We can go on and on, but I really want to come down today, and we want to know about his life, as is the structure and paradigm of our program. In first section, first half an hour or first 20 minutes, we go to the visitors visit and witness of Kashmir and the places where he was brought up, like he was brought up in Kangda. So let's go to the reminiscence and nostalgic way and understand his life, his articles, and then in the second part we'll go and talk about this book, which is really a very valuable and precious book. You should buy it. You should buy it. I have also bought it. I didn't get it in a compliment, so I have complaints, because you should finally go and buy a book. Then you will know its value. So, with that, I would like to welcome to the studio Dr. Ramesh Tamiri ji, with great reverence and love. Let's all welcome him into our studio. Tamiri ji, you are
Good
welcome into the
Namaskar,
98th
Namaskar, Jugal
show.
ji. Thank you so much for inviting me today's talk show and very kind words. I feel humbled by your kind words about the introduction of my book. It is really a privilege to speak on your show about my book, how it was researched and how I got the motivation for it, and also its significance and also the content. Uh, I have been regularly listening to your programs on Sheetalnath Conversations. You are doing a great service. I think researchers, present researchers, and for posterity, people will definitely access your digital archives whenever they decide to research on Kashmir. I feel you are doing it's a very important show where you are getting people from different fields. Many people do not leave behind their memoirs or do not have their writings, but on when they come to your show, they talk about the way you conduct the show. You touch their life, you touch their works, and the significance of their works. It remains stored for generations in the digital archives, and this is the age of digitization. We in fact uh, I think the people are shifting to the digital archives for
Yes,
research,
that
because
is the
many
reality.
times you are not able to lay your hands on the rare books, and these are
Yes,
many websites host these PDF files of these books. That is how the facilities for the researchers, they are expanding. Many times during my research also, these I had to really struggle for some books I got online also. So that is the importance of the digital archives. I feel in a few years from now, no researcher will be able to conduct research on Kashmir without accessing your digital archives. I'm
thank you.
once again thankful to you. I feel humbled by your introduction, and so how keenly you have gone through the book and really touched the essence.
Grateful. Grateful, sir. You again an honor that you have come to our shows, and certainly in our first segment now we'll slightly amble forward. In our first segment, we take the visitor to his witness of Kashmir, Kashmir's landscape, the place he was born, and the waterways, the festivals, the institutions, the inspirations, the teachers, and other activity in Kashmir as witnessed by you. We certainly like to have that elucidation of that. Besides that, also because you were born in Kangra in the Shivalik extension, and certainly we like to know about the Kangra days where you did your primary and your father was a postmaster. And I have some pictures also. So in between, we're going to display those also. But certainly, this is going to be a great memoir, and we'd like to first of all kindly, sir, visit your childhood and let us be, uh, just a minute. I think there, this is it. Ek minute, just, just yes, yes.
Yes.
Actually, there some wire might have been touched or something might have gone there. Anyway, doesn't matter.
No.
You're audible, sir. You're audible.
Yes, yes,
Hello.
yes. That is nice.
Yeah. Now, so kindly let us let's fly towards your childhood and see the city of Seven Bridges and the Kangra
Yes, sir.
place
Yes,
and
sir.
the other places which you have been through your childhood,
Yes,
and let's know about your
yes.
memoirs so wonderfully. So kindly, sir, kindly elucidate.
Thank you. Our family comes from Ranawari, a suburb of Srinagar city. But
Right.
my childhood was entire childhood up to first 10 years of life was spent in district Kangra, which is presently a part of which is presently part of Himachal Pradesh. But during that time, it was part of Punjab. In Kangra, my father served at different places at Jwalamukhi, Garli,
Certainly.
Dharamshala, McLeodganj, and Lamba Ground. Some of these places have great cultural and historical importance. Jwalamukhi is a pilgrim town. It is one of the 51 Shakti Peeths of India. It is
Right.
said that goddess Sati's tongue fell at a rock in Jwalamukhi, where we have an eternal flame. During our childhood, we used to hear stories that Mughal Emperor Akbar once came to Jwalamukhi and tried to extinguish the flame by throwing water, but he did not succeed. Then this Gurli village is a very important village. It was categorized as the heritage village in 1997, and another adjacent village is Pragpur. The two villages were in a heritage zone in 2002. Gurli and Pragpur have very interesting history. How these places came into existence as heritage places during
Heritage.
16th and 17th centuries. Uh, Bands of marauders, they would plunder and pillage many hill regions of Kangra district. They became a menace for the people. Then, Royal Princess Parak Devi of Jaswan clan, she organized resistance and she put an end to this menace. After then it was then They selected the site as per a divine message. People from adjacent villages, they were asked to settle in these two villages, but these villages Garli and Pragpur, they owe
Certainly.
their heritage status because of the great entrepreneur uh, role of Sood community. In they have this Sood community, a few clans of this Sood community, they came from Sarhind. After Sarhind was ransacked by Mughals, they came to Garli, and first they were involved in arranging facilities for Jwalamukhi and Kangra Briheshwari temple. They were a very wealthy community. Then after this came under the British rule in 1846, Sood communities business opportunities increased. They would go to Shimla also, and then Hindustan Tibet Road also. They invested much of their money in building grand havelis, mansions, and kothis. Many of these kothis and mansions, they have features of Italian, Portuguese, uh, Mughal, and
Architecture.
Rajput architecture. Then gradually they also built this sanitation and waterworks, where they opened schools. In fact, we had this hospitals and veterinary hospitals also as early as 1890. I, in
Right, sir.
fact, started my first class in girly school. I kept a photo image also on your show.
Yeah,
Then,
yeah.
yes, then after 1930s or 40s, these members of the Sood community, they went for other opportunities. Some went to Kenya, some settled in other
This,
parts of
this is
India.
this is probably Laba ground.
Yes, yeah, I'll come to that. This is Lamba ground
Okay,
state. It has also history. But Gurli, you can focus. Gurli, no, this is not this. Gurli is a
okay,
very important village, heritage village. Uh,
okay, okay.
in fact, the place where we used to stay in 1962, people would tell us this was Raja's Haveli. And in front of our house, there is a heritage building also. This was the place where we stayed. It was
Okay.
in the middle of a orchard, about 10, 15 canals of land. This is the
Beautiful.
place where I spent my early years. I must have been 4 or 5 years. There is another photograph, heritage building just in front of that. If you can
Okay.
focus on that, I purposely put
Because
these images, because aim is to where I spent my childhood.
yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. We'll just
Huh.
find it out.
So yes, no problem. Then these Havelis fell. Yeah, this was my school. This here I started my first standard.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes, please continue. Please.
yes. Then uh, these after many members of the Sood community, they settled in Kenya and other parts of India. These Havelis fell vacant. Some of these Havelis are 300-year old. So
Right.
presently, now government has decided that how to preserve these Havelis. They
Mhm.
decided to make this Pragpur as well as Garli as heritage villages. Then
Okay.
another place where my father served was Dharamshala. It is the district headquarters. Dharamsala's its previous name was Dameri. It was a
Dameri.
village, Dameri. Yes, after Britishers came to Kangra district in 1815, Dharamsala got little importance. But what really changed things for Dharamsala and its upper part, which is popularly known as Kent, was British Army had Gurkha soldiers. They
Okay.
decided after in 1849, Britishers shifted their cantonment to McLeodganj, that is known as Upper Dharamsala. Upper
Okay.
Dharamsala.
Upper Damshara.
My father was posted in Upper Dharamsala in 1963. The place is popularly known as McLeodganj. McLeodganj was a very favorite place for the Britishers. Its name McLeod comes from the lieutenant, from the governor of Punjab, David McLeod. He
Yeah.
was a great intellectual. Then another person, then another bazaar is known as Farsetganj. That is named after Divisional Commissioner T.D. Farset. He was also a Britisher, and he was involved in the negotiations between Yarkand traders and the Indian traders. The
Okay.
Lord Elgin, who was Viceroy of India, he also liked the place very much. He would spend his summers in McLeodganj, and that house was known as Mortimer House. That Lord Elgin, he had in fact sent a proposal to the British colonial government that you make this McLeodganj as the summer capital of India.
Oh, I
Lord
see.
Lord Elgin, he died in Dharamshala. I have seen his grave in that cemetery at McLeodganj. Then that his Mortimer house was purchased by a very wealthy businessman of Lahore. His name was Lala Bashishwarnath. In 1959, after Dalai Lama, His Holiness Dalai Lama, uh, came to McLeodganj, this building of Mortimer House, a property of Lala Basheshwar Nath, was purchased by Government of India and it was given to His Holiness Dalai Lama. That is then up from there. Then another place where my father served is known as Lamba Ground. The picture you focused just picture you for yes. This used to be our residential house in 1957. I was 1 year old that time.
Okay.
Lamba Ground State up to 1810, it was an independent principality. From 1815 to 1846, it became a part of the Sikh Empire. Then after 1846, Britishers took direct control of it and merged it with the Shimla Hill states. The interesting thing about Lamba is just 2 kilometers from Lamba, there is a place called Bijapur. Maharani
Mm.
Tara Devi, Maharaja Hari Singh's wife, she
Five.
hails from that place. In fact, I was 1 year old, but my parents would often recall the story that in 1957, Dr. Karan Singh came to visit his mother there, and there was some sort of celebration also. We too were invited on
Oh,
that occasion. That is the part of my. I had my whole primary education from district Kangra. In 1969, in 1966, Punjab Postal Circle, Ambala Postal Circle was divided, and JNK Circle was JNK Circle was created as a separate postal circle. It was during that time my father was posted back to Kashmir,
mm.
and in we shifted to our house, ancestral house in Renavari. I put a picture also in these album. In
Yeah.
19 yes, there's an old house, joint house. 1969, we shifted back to our ancestral place. It was great to be. In fact, I had seen my whole childhood in Himachal Pradesh. This is my mother's parental house. I'll talk about it later.
Okay.
uh, then we felt it was a change for me, because during the first 5 years I was not even able to speak Kashmiri because we had grown up in Himachal.
Okay.
Then after we shifted to Ranavari, it was very great, where our elders had lived. Then where my father was brought up, I passed my 10th standard from Devi Higher Secondary School, Renavari. I had the
Mm.
privilege to be student of two outstanding teachers. I ranked them among the finest teachers in Kashmir. One was Pandit Dinanath Handuji, and
Dinanath.
second was Pandit Dinanath Hanjura. Dinanath Hanjura ji, he was an institution in himself. Besides being a great teacher, he was also the founder of National High School in Shupian. In fact, the all the top members of the civil society, they had their education in from the National High School had been their alma mater.
Oh,
Pandit Dinanath ji Hanjura is during Quit India movement, the great Congress leader Mr. Keskar, he was underground in Kashmir for some months. In fact, it was Dinanath Hanjuraji who arranged places for his secret stay in Shupia as well as in Hanjura.
okay.
Then I had my college education in SP College. It was a very good. It was great to be. SP College used to be a. It used to have both arts as well as the medical and the science faculties. There would be over 3,000 students during my time. Our principal was Professor Nazir Ahmad Khan. He was very friendly to the students. We had very good teachers here. Professor T.N. Cole, he taught us English. In fact, he was a great inspiration. He was very knowledgeable person.
Okay.
Then I did my MBBS from Srinagar Medical College. Srinagar Medical College had some of the best faculties in the country. Our principal was S.N. Ahmad Shah Saab. I did my post graduation, as you already said, in from Government Medical College Jammu. Srinagar in Kashmir, we led a very rich social life. within community as well as outside the community. We had friends from both the communities. Uh, there was I'm using a term very commonly, that is known as lihazdari. Their
Yes.
people lihazdari, and in fact lihazdari was the defining principle in our relations with our neighbors, our colleagues, then other people with whom we had chance to stay. During this period, I would also go for trekking. In fact, there is no match to Kashmir Valley. It's a great place for trekkers. I also had the opportunity. I put a photograph also. We attempted one of the most difficult routes to go to the cave of Lord Amarnath. We went from the Gumri route. It is just 3 hours journey from Zojila, Gumri, up to the cave. Very difficult and a dangerous route. That was in 1981. That is that is the one part. Second part is how I got interested into the non-academic reading. In fact, I must confess, my first interest in reading, it started with literature. I was greatly inspired by what we call as the literature of social realism. There used to be a common topic in my college days, other barai zindagi, art for art's sake or art for life's sake. Somehow I drifted into the art for life's sake. There is social realism. Great writers, short story writers like Sadat San Manto, Mapasant, and Gorkhi. I was greatly impressed by them. In fact, Manto, even up to the present day, I continue to remain a great admirer of Sadat
Sadat
San
Hasan
Manto.
Manto.
Yes,
Gorky
yes.
also impressed you. You were also impressed by Gorky.
Yes, I first read. In fact, the first book I read in 1973. There was exhibition in our college, Soet books.
Hmm.
Somebody would come from this Chandigarh. That was the first book. Gorky, I was really impressed. Then I read his childhood, apprenticeship, universities. Uh, but this association with literature was disrupted in 1975. there
Hmm.
was there were a few incidents. One was the emergency. Second was after 1977, things were not moving well in Kashmir, and that was the time I felt history, politics are important subjects. As you rightly said in your introduction, that knowing history is very important. You learn from history, and if you have to shape history, you have to grasp the trends, how the dynamic of history moves forward. But 1980s was a very different situation. In 1980s, by 1981, we had ears to the ground, and I also socialized with many friends from the Muslim community. They were liberal, the people who were associated with me.
Hmm.
So they had their ears to the ground. They said something dangerous was going to unfold in Kashmir. It was that time that I started taking history rather more seriously. I familiarized myself with the methodology of history. I had the opportunity to read great writers like Bloch, his Historian's Craft, then E.H. Carr's What is
We'll,
History.
Tamir Saab, Dr. Saab, we'll just move slightly faster now
Yes,
because it's
yes, yes,
almost
yes,
40 minutes.
yes,
So
yes, yes,
I would like to say that you had a very, very good relationship with the great intellectuals like
yes, yes.
N.N.
I can
Raina,
name them. I can name
Mir
them. Yes,
Jalali, Gyasuddin, Professor Peer Gyasuddin, K.N. Pandita, M.K. Teng.
Professor. Yes,
Yeah,
and Dr. N.N. Raina, Professor N.N. Raina.
Professor N.N. Raina. Yeah, tell us
Yes,
something
yes,
about
yes. Professor N.N. Raina uh, is considered to be one of the founders of the left movement in Kashmir. In fact, after doing his graduation, he went to Allahabad University. He wanted to pursue course in this English, post graduation in English, but but uh, but and during that, I think it was 1937. He would often go to Anand Bhavan, Pandit Nehru's place.
this.
There
Yeah.
he saw a man with black Achkan, and he was a Dr. K.M. Ashraf. During that time, Nehruji had started a program that was known as Congress's Muslim Mass Contact Program. So that was the time when Congress was trying to get to approach the Muslims. And
Hmm.
when Dr. Rana went there, Dr. Ashraf told him, "You are from Kashmir, so you should keep regular contact with me." He felt happy, and he would lend books from Nehruji's personal library to Dr. Rana. Dr. Rana recalled me in an interview that Nehruji used to underline certain passages, certain lines, and and Dr. Rana Saab would read those very keenly. Then in 1937 and
And
38,
he was also associated with KN, I mean, Rao Sahab, Cow Sahab,
yeah, yeah, Kausar was his contemporary in Allahabad
Cowboy,
University.
Cowboy.
Yes, 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 yes. And in 1937 and 1938, Dr. K.M. Ashraf visited Kashmir and attended a few conferences there. Then in
And what about
1939,
Pir Gyasuddin and
no, no, just
yeah,
one second. Dr. Rana later on went for PhD to London, Bristol University. And that is the very interesting part of it. He was associated with the Bristol group,
yes,
Cecil Powell and Cleany. Cecil Powell got Nobel Prize in 1950.
yes.
Dr. Anand Rana did his PhD under them. In fact, they were closely associated with Bertrand Russell and Einstein also. Uh, then I had an interview of Dr. Anand Rana in 1984, and after that we had regular association up to 1996. There is about Professor Rana.
And Jalali Saab and Tang Saab and others.
Yes, yes. There is a
Gyasuddin.
context. There's a context how I came to contact with them, because I felt the things in Kashmir. There's a lot of disinformation in history, and rather there should be a counter narrative. So I worked out a program then where I would hold interviews, and these people had been associated with politics and the contemporary history of. So I met in that connection Jalali Saab. He was himself very much interested in history. He later turned to journalism, and he headed PTI for a long time. Then, in the same way, I met Professor M.K. Tang, brilliant political scientist. In
Yeah.
fact, he had written a joint paper with three or four scholars on proto history of Kashmir. I was greatly inspired. Then Dr.
Proto history.
K.N. Yes, 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 proto history. In fact, that became the basis for my long association, which continued in a different form in Jammu also. Then Professor K.N. Pandita, I had read a book, Dawn over
Living legend.
Samarkand. I had read a book, Red Star and Green Crescent. That was the book. It was published by some Soviet book house that shows how the Soviets changed the face of Central Asia from a peasant society, khanates, to a modern society.
Hmm.
And in fact, there Dr. Rana told me you should read a book, Dan over Samarkand by Joshua Kunitz. In fact, Pandit Nehru mentioned in his book
Joseph
that he was
Lynch.
greatly in fact, I must tell you, since I was able to get this book only a few years back, because many online these houses, publishing houses, these commercial
Hmm.
sites, they get arrange old books also. So that is how I got the book done over Samarkand. Then Pir Gayasuddin Saab, he had also been remained with the left movement, and then he was a minister also in the Bakshi Saab's cabinet. Uh, then he had a very big library, and he was fond of books. So
And
after a brief,
yeah, and you too
after
have a
just
very big library at your
no, there
place,
is
around 7,000 books.
yes,
Tell
yes,
us
yes,
something
yes,
about it.
yes.
Yeah.
In fact, book collection started books, newspaper clippings, journal articles. This started from 1973, but a major portion of it was lost in 1990 when it was difficult to take all that. There was no space in Jammu. But after 1990, I started building my archive again. It is about 7,000 books, about 2,000 books on Kashmir. Then it has one of the finest sections on Central Asia. I have all the volumes of Brown, I have UNESCO volumes, History of Civilizations of Central Asia. Then on Pakistan, I have about 150 books. Then medieval history, ancient history, then literature, about 1,000 books. So because some books are reference books, some books I read on a regular basis, And then I also found a partition history, because that is directly related to how I worked out the book. I used to read this partition. In fact, in literature, I was greatly interested in historical novel, and also the partition literature. In fact, the
Have you
partitions.
read Larry Collins, Dominic Lapper?
Yes, yes, I have read that.
Freedom at
Freedom at
Midnight.
Midnight. Freedom at
Yeah.
Midnight, long ago in 75.
Yeah.
Then,
Questionable.
I used to read literature also. Manto, Chaman,
Train to Pakistan. Yeah.
Azadi by Chaman Hal, Train to Pakistan by Khushwant Singh, and many others.
Yashpal
But
also
after
Hindi writers as well. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Then around 90 mid 1990s, the shift of these partition studies, it shifted from literature to non-fiction. That is how that was a sort of an inspiration for my work on 1947 Pakistani invasion and its impact on minorities.
Hmm. That's
And
that's
today,
yeah.
yes,
Yeah, please continue. Do you
uh,
outsource your library to the people, the scholars who are in need of? Sometimes they need a
actually,
material because there are no libraries maintained here. Ranbir Library
some
books are all stolen by the bureaucrats who
yes,
run those libraries.
yes, yes,
Most of these libraries, the books are either gifted to the bureaucrats or their children.
yes,
And
that
there
is
are
true.
very good books are, I mean, they are extincted from the main libraries.
Yes,
Does your
yes.
library serve that purpose? Fill that
Uh,
vacuum? Yeah.
no, presently, because my library is not cataloged.
Okay.
It's not cataloged. But then some friends they just refer some MPhil students or those who are doing PhDs or people who are working on Kashmir. They do meet me, and where possible, I help them by giving the material or
Okay.
also having interactions.
That's okay.
But
That's wonderful.
I'm thinking that I should catalog my library and put it.
Books in use.
People should know what books I have in my library. And in case of rare books, we can also digitize these. I have a plan for the future.
Before we go to your histography and your research of this quarter century for the present book, which we are going to talk about, before that, I would like to say that you have written many research papers, wonderful research papers. Two of them I have also researched. One is Allama Iqbal, and another is Justice Shamunat Pandit. Shamunat Pandit, I have been personally to his prison.
Yes, yes,
And to
yes, yes,
Allama Iqbal's relatives in Jammu, I had been, they claim that they are the relatives of Allama Iqbal. You have done an
yes,
extensive article, extensive research, much before
yes,
when I went there, and much before Khushwant Singh wrote an article on that. Tell us
the-
something
yes,
about this, this
yes,
whole episode of Allama Iqbal's
yes,
relatives here.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. It happened accidentally. I was not working on the ancestry of Iqbal, nor was there any aim, but I was certainly interested in knowing about my historical diaspora, the Kashmiri Pandits who left Kashmir long ago in 17th, 18th century, to what Pandit Nehru says, in search of fame and fortune.
Hmm.
So, uh, in search of fame and fortune. Then
Yes.
in 2002, I think it was January, I was posted as a casualty medical officer in GMC Jammu. A person, Mr. PV Rawal, happened to come with his son to the casualty.
Hmm.
I saw the surname Rawal. I asked him, "Are you a Kashmiri Pandit?" He told
Hmm.
me, "Yes, we are Kashmiri Pandits, old Kashmiri Pandits, descendants closely related to Alama Iqbal." I took it very casually because in Kashmir I had read in Dr. R.K. Parimu's book about Sahajram Safru, so I did not pursue the matter further. Then in 2003, but
Hmm.
luckily he had given me his visiting card. Then in
Okay.
2003, Dr. B.N. Sharga, he's done a lot of work on the old Kashmiris. Very, very important work that he has published so far, I think 5 or 6 volumes. So one day it struck me, and in fact, Mr. Peer Gayazin Saab told me that Dr. Raja Narendranath Rana of Lahore, it was
Hmm.
one branch of Batmalu Saab's brother. So
Okay.
I got interested. Let me just inquire, find out what Mr. Raul was saying, that they are relations of Alama Iqbal. So I rang him. It must have been January in 2003. I told him, "Do you have any record?" He said, yes, we have genealogy, complete genealogy, which runs into 30 pages. I went to
Hmm.
his house. They showed me this genealogy. Then I asked him, do you have any photograph? He also, I think I gave you that photograph also.
Yeah,
He,
that was published, yeah, in by Kushwan Singh's article as well. Yeah.
yes, yes. In fact, I told him, "Do you have any record to substantiate this?" He said, "Yes, I have an old photograph of my mother's marriage, 1932, Sialkot. In fact, in this photograph, uh, you can see the Raj Kishori Rawal,
He's in the
Mr. P.
extreme
Left,
right.
left, left. Uh, Mr.
Right.
P.V. Rawal's mother. Then second in the middle is her mother-in-law, Mrs. Parvati Rawal, Mr.
Okay.
P.V. Rawal's grandmother, Dadi.
Hmm.
Then you can see Mr. Jivannath Rawal, Mr. P.V. Rawal's father. Then in the second row, standing, the first person on the left, on my left, is Mr. Ram Narayan Handu. He is a close relation of this family also, and his maternal uncle of the great film actor A.K. Hangal. Then
Okay.
next to him, the person wearing this shawl is Pandit Amarnath Safru. You can
Manat
see this
Safru.
is so closely resembles Iqbal, facial expressions, the mustaches. Uh, in fact, I
Yes,
never
as if
see.
he's Iqbal only.
Yes, yes, yes. Then third person is, in my view, I don't know the name, but in my view, he's he's a member of the Zutshi family. There are four families in Sialkot.
Hmm.
I'll come to that little later. Then I decided to write an article I used to write for Kashmir Sentinel. uh, I published an article in April 2002, Alama Iqbal Searching for Pandit Roots.
Hmm.
I traced the whole. I just no. I must tell, when I took that manuscript's copy from Raul family, I reached home. I just was curious to know which when did Iqbal's ancestors they change their religion. I was shocked when I read it was his father, Ratanlal Sabru. I could not believe. I
It
rang
was
up
unbelievable.
Mr. P. It was unbelievable, unbelievable. In fact, the genealogical account starts with Mr. Birbal Sabru.
Birbal Safru.
So what I had heard about Sahasran Safru, I found that I should investigate it further. So what I did, I published
This is
the.
the family tree sketch.
Yes, yes, yes. So what I did, I published the article, I took the photograph, and I published in Kashmir Sentinel. Then I think some people found it interesting. Some people chose to ignore it because it was something very different. Then Mr. Gulam Nabi Khyal, the veteran journalist of Kashmir,
Okay.
he reprinted it in his. I was surprised. There was
Okay.
some debate also, but nobody referred to my article. Then I talked to few people in the media. I took to talk to some other people also that I have written, but people were they were not willing to talk about it
Why
because of the
so?
political correctness.
Political
Uh,
correct. Okay.
because Iqbal never spoke about his ancestry for reasons you know well.
Yeah.
Because he was the ideologue of Pakistan,
I love
and to talk,
Pakistan, but I think
yes,
why should one anybody? He wrote Sheikh, and Sheikh means the convert, and that is how, I mean, it could be. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah,
Uh, no. I think personally because I have been I'm taking. I found Iqbal at personal level. He always admired Kashmiri Pandits. He was very
Kashmir.
friendly to Kashmiri Pandits. I must say it frankly. In fact, Premnath Bazaz, he mentions somewhere in his book that Sheikh Abdullah would tell him that Iqbal advised me that you carry Pandits along. They are patriotic people. They will build Kashmir, but assure it that they are economically they don't remain insecure.
He had
So
also a good relation with Kashyap Bandhu and others.
yes, 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 yes. In fact, when I went through the genealogy, I had heard about a person, Mr. Amarnath Purbi. He was director customs, but I was not knowing anything more about him. And when I read the genealogy, he is a close relation of the family. Iqbal's Birbal Safru, from where this genealogy starts. uh, they mentioned he had five sons: Gango Bishan, Thakur Das,
Akurdas.
Kanaya Lal, Radha Krishan, and Mukand Lal, and one daughter Gango. Amarnath Purbi is son of Gango. He had his education in London and he had a British wife also.
Okay.
Then Gango Das and Thakur Das, they did not have any children. Radha Krishan was adopted by Thakur Das. Then Radha Krishan's family, yes, I am answering your question.
Hmm.
Radha Krishan, Radha Krishan had three daughters. In fact, uh, Kashabandu ji's Mrs. Bimla ji, she is directly related. She is granddaughter of this Radha Krishan's daughter.
Okay.
Then you have Professor Ravindra Kumar, who was the director of Nehru Memorial Museum also. He is too is from the same grandson of the daughter of Radhakrishan Sapruji. Then Dr. Jagat Mohani,
Jagat Mohani.
Dr. C.K. Atal, and Mr. Santosh Gurtu. He was I think head of Punjab Kesari's news. He was something news editor. In fact, I had the opportunity to meet after I published this article. uh,
Hmm.
Mr. Santosh Gurtu wanted to meet me, and
Hmm.
I met him in his Jorbag residence. And there was a very interesting discussion about his very illustrious relation, Totaram Nakash. He was a master miniature painter. That is not the subject for discussion today.
Yeah, that's for another day. Yes.
Then interesting thing about Khushwant Singh. Now, since many people were hesitant to publicly own my article, so Mr. P.V. Rao felt that if he gets some big personality to write about it, then it would probably serve the purpose. Then he sent material to Khushwant Singh, including
Kushwant Singh.
my article also. But since Khushwant Singh was very quite old, I think he has some little bit of loss of memory also. So he botched up things. He botched up things, and that became the ground for critics of this story to criticize Khushwant Singh and indirectly this ancestry, this view of
And
an ancestry.
Kushwant Singh, yeah, it was criticized by Mr. This Raval also
Well,
when I met him. He said that he had all
yes.
botched up, he had all destroyed everything, he had changed here and there. What I wanted to ask that if we go to beyond Birbal Dar, we go to the Sahaj Ram, as you said, their ancestry. So did they shift to from Kashmir? Did they shift to Sialkot in his time or the earlier or after that?
My view is different because we have a definite line of genealogy from Birbal Dar that is uncontestable. So
Okay,
Iqbal did belong to the clan of Birbal Dar. Now the question is, when did this Sabru family come to Sialkot? There were four families in Sialkot. One was Handus, Mr. A.K. Hangal's these Nankas. His mother came from Handu family.
Andus, yeah.
Then second was a great Sanskrit scholar, one of the finest scholars of Punjab. His name was Damodar Pandit. His
Damod.
one daughter was married to Handus and one daughter to Ravals. Then third family was Mr. Mohan Zutshi. So these families were connected by through marriage also, and the fourth family was Sabru. Then the question arises: who was the ancestor of Birbal Dar who came to Sialkot?
Sialkot.
Frankly speaking, I never write anything unless it is backed by verifiable references.
Yes, yes, that I'm sure.
So
That
that
I'm
is
sure.
very important.
Yeah.
So about that, I will not commit, but I will give some sort of indications. There were two Sehsrams
Hmm.
during the time of Azam Khan, who was the last Pathan governor of Kashmir. One was Sehsram Dar, second was Sahasram Sabru. What was their position in the Afghan court that time? I am still not clear. Maybe at some later time when I free from the present engagements, I would
Hmm.
certainly like to investigate and go
Okay.
beyond Parimu and Hassan and other sources. Sahasram Dar could never have gone to accompany Azam Khan to Kabul, because had he helped Azam Khan after the Pathans were defeated and the Sikh rule was
Six
established,
came
he would
in
never have been able to stay in Kashmir. That is for sure. And Sahasram's family stayed in Kashmir.
because he
In
was a
fact, I
close accomplice of this man, the Pathan ruler. Yeah,
yes, 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 yes. No, 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 no. My question is different, because
yeah.
Dr. R.K. Parimu says there was some embezzlement case, uh, and that is why the Sahasram Safru left. I don't buy that theory. Second thing is Sahasram Safru, that is Hassan Khuhami. Hassan Khuhami says some Sahasram. He accompanied Azam Khan and helped him in taking his wealth and family, accompanied them up to Kabul. But the question is, then who was this Sahasram who accompanied Azam Khan? Could it be Sahasram Dar? I believe no, because if Sahasram Dar would have done it, he would have never been able to stay back in Kashmir, because that would have been very
It was a
difficult.
Sikh rule. Naturally, those Afghans,
Yes, yes.
atrocious Afghans,
I
they had to run
I
away.
met I have met
Support us as
descendants
well.
of Sahasram. I have met descendants of Sahasram Dar. In fact, Mr. Owen Trussell, you must be knowing, who was our community leader also, and had been with Congress.
Yeah, Trisal Saab.
Trussell Saab, yes. There is a chinar tree named after Sahasram Dar, and in Kashmiri we say Sahasrami Bhuj. Then there is a
Sahasram.
village also named after Sahasram Dar, that is known as Sahasgund. So Sahasram stayed in Kashmir. Now, who could be the other Sahasram which Hassan Khuhami talks about? Hassan was a very meticulous historian. I personally feel it could be Sahasram
Sahasram.
Safru only.
Safru.
And after accompanying Azam Khan, he was a person non grata for the new rulers, Sikh rulers. So he thought of staying, settling in a place which was closer to his home state, and Sialkot fitted the bill, footed the bill. So that is the line of investigation. If I get time, I might pursue further.
And you, there is also one incident that Iqbal had gone to the Amritsar to meet Poshi and the other relatives of hers. And what is the collaborative evidence for that?
We have only the family evidence, but given Iqbal's very, very friendly attitude towards Kashmiri Pandits, because I'll tell you another anecdote, rather two anecdotes I'll quote. In 1932, the veteran journalist Prem Bhatia, he happened to visit Lahore. He met Allama Iqbal. Iqbal told him that had Nehru's father, Motilal Nehru, or my father, they would have stayed in Kashmir, what would
Not
have we
migrated.
been? He would have been a district level pleader, Motilal Nehru, and I would have been a district level poet. That is one thing. Second, in 1938, there was a famous British historian, Edward Thompson. Nehru
Edward
mentions
Thompson.
in his book uh, Iqbal felt that he should meet Nehru. Nehru and Iqbal, they had a spare over some issue that I don't want to talk presently. Uh, uh,
It's fine.
uh,
You can go without that. Yeah.
yeah, because that is still under investigation. I am working on that. Nehru finally, Edward Thompson, Iqbal was very ill, and Edward Thompson arranged the meeting.
Hmm.
Rather, Pandit Nehru went to meet Iqbal.
Hmm.
Do you know what Iqbal told Pandit Nehru? Jinha is a politician, you are a statesman. So these two incidents and what he told Sheikh Abdullah also, I personally feel that story could be true.
And Doris
That is
and his this governess and in the household keeper, Doris has also written somewhere that I mean he loved Kangadi brought by Kashmiri Pandit or somewhere, I don't know. There's a Kangadi connection was there. That was the Kashmir connection rather than, and he was a Kashmiri Brahmin, and he refused to eat beef, and he said
yes,
somewhere that I'm from a Kashmiri Brahmin lineage. I cannot take wheat.
yes,
I don't
yes,
have a temperament to eat beef. Yeah.
yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah, that could be true, because after studying this Iqbal, this aspect of Iqbal, I personally feel in Indrani's story could well be true. But
Hmm.
such because corroboration is different and circumstantial evidence is different. So
Hmm.
circumstantial evidence has one value, and the corroborative evidence, direct corroborative evidence, has another
That is a
value.
that is a superior value, rather. That is
Yes,
supportive. That is scaffolding,
yes,
rather.
yes, 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 yes. So in history, we go by the corroborative value, but where such thing is not existing, circumstantial evidence is also it helps.
Hmm. That's true. That's true. I mean, in a way, we. I don't think. I think the historians should come forward without any biases, because genealogy remains the same, irrespective of wherever we do, whatever culture we change. Some people in Kashmiri Pandits, they became Punjabis, and they are half Punjabis and they are Kashmiris, but they don't hide their lineage. So historians should come without any sense of guilt or without any sense of biases, and approach especially this aspect, because Kushwant Singh also, somebody has said somewhere, it is very strange that a personality of that caliber, he has not spoken about the lineage, this lineage, about his Kashmiri Pandit lineage, which neither he has opposed it, neither he has refuted it. Somewhere down the line, if there was a discussion over it as well. Anyway, that could be the reason what you say, the political, because he was
Yes,
patriarch
yes, because
of Pakistan's creation.
because he was he was the main ideologue of Pakistan.
Yes. So I think we had enough. Your article is very self-sufficient. I have read it. You sent it me today also. Earlier also I read it. And first of all, now let's go to the second part of the show. That is about this book,
Right.
Pakistan's Invasion on J&K 1947-48, Untold
Yes.
Stories of the Victims, by Dr. Ramesh Tamiri Saab. Before that, I would like to play a couplet by Sardar Jafri. I would like to recite a couplet by Sardar Jafri. ये टैंक तोप, ये बम्बार, आग बंदूकें, कहाँ से लाए हो, किसकी तरफ है रुख इनका, दायरे वारिस को इकबाल, दायरे वारिस इकबाल का ये तोहफा है, जगह के जंग के तूफान जमीन नानक से, उठे हो बर्क गिराने कबीर के घर पर, गुलाम तुम भी थे कल तक, गुलाम हम भी थे, नहा के खून में आई थी फसल आज़ादी. So that's a tributary note to your book,
Yes.
and we'll just
Thank
go
you.
ahead. And first of all, I would like to say, because I am very much keen student of the geopolitics. Of late, I got interested into it. I always loved history, but geopolitics now of late, it is my latest vice. I'm into it.
Yes.
So I want to
Yes.
first of all know, because you were starting up the book, how you conceived, research, and conducted its significance. But before that, I would like to ask you, in the entire bandwagon, if we see, the partition is just nearby. Second World War is just gone. Britishers have become poor because at the home they're all funds, everything is exhausted. Gilgit is a kind of they want to make it a buffer zone, and accession has not yet happened. And this man Gurdaspur, that annexation of
Redcliffe.
Gurdaspur district to the India, before coming to that, the raid happens. Somewhere down the line, did the lines already existed previous prior to all these happenings, or it was just an abrupt?
No, I could not get.
What I'm saying is that, I mean, before the Gurdaspur, before this cliff,
Yes.
before
Yes.
the
Yes.
Gurdaspur
Yes.
was
Yes.
annexed,
Yes. Yes.
Maharaja was
Yes.
undecided, and he then sacked his prime
Uh,
minister, and another prime minister came in. British had its own interest
yes. Yes.
in Gilgit, and Maharaja was not yet prepared, because there was a desertation, there was apprehension, his intelligence said apprehension of desertation, and there was an international play into it. This whole invasion
Yes. Yes.
of Pakistani, the under with the column of those, these
Yes.
brutal Kabalis, medieval Kabalis, and the loot, the arson, the destruction. Was it a pre-plan? Were the threats drawn from somewhere else? Because head of the army, I also read in your book, the head of the army, who was in the Indian. There were some army officers from British who went to the Pakistan side, and some went to the India. And Paramountcy, as the collapse of Paramount to see, Gilgit was naturally part of the Jammu and Kashmir state as per the agreement. So even they say that despite of like blaming on Nehru and Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah, everything put on blame it on Nehru or Sheikh Abdullah, but probably somewhere down the line it was the British compulsion also and British cleverness also, their shrewdness also who got it delayed. What were the actual threats behind this whole happening?
There were many things happening. Is my voice clear?
Yes, yes, sir.
Hello? There were many things happening. In fact, before the award of the Redcliffe Award
Yeah.
on
Red Cliff Award.
Gurdaspur, Redcliffe
Gurdaspur.
Award on Gurdaspur. So I cannot say how early was the British involvement, but the people, Britishers who served in Pakistan, for example, General Cunningham, he was a governor of NWFP, the place where these Pashtun tribesmen were recruited. Then there
Mm.
was role of this Francis Muddy. He was governor of Punjab. In fact, Nehru called him the British Muslim League leader. Nehru addressed him like that.
Okay.
Then there was General Frank Messervy. He was commander in chief of the
Thank you, sir.
Pakistan Army. His deputy Douglas Gray. So I cannot at this moment say that, but Britishers definitely wanted J&K state to go to Pakistan, and particularly the northern areas, Gilgit, Baltistan, and also these Mirpur and other areas, because and in fact they were in fact the British colonial government, they were doing this through their people in Pakistan, the governors. Before, after June partition plan was announced, there were only two options for the princely states. In fact, Lord Mountbatten convened a meeting also with the Chamber
Ah,
of Princes in July. He told them you had to decide before 15th of August to go either with India or to go with Pakistan.
and he had also opted, said an option for you can remain independent as well. Maybe
No,
the you
no, no.
sure?
He told them that there was no independence option. That is
But
very clear
Paramount to see
because
did Paramount to see have a bearing on Jammu and Kashmir state?
no, partition, princely states were not subjected to partition. That is why July meeting of the
Mm,
Lord Mountbatten with the Chamber of Princes. He had a separate meeting with Chamber of Princes. He
mm,
told them with the lapse of paramountcy, they would not be recognized as independent states. He said it very clearly. So after between June and October, there
mm,
was no option of independence. So to blame Maharaja Hari Singh that he was toying with the idea of independence, that is totally wrong and disinformation
mm.
campaign. Then up to 15th of August, 16th of August, when before this Redcliffe Award on Gurdaspur was
Gurdaspur
awarded, Maharaja Hari Singh was a very shrewd ruler, so he would
strategy.
not like to do something that would create an massive internal revolt or a war by Pakistan. So he took right decisions at right time. So I'll just explain it how.
Mm,
Before the Red Cliff Award, he sought to play safe. He did not commit himself on accession. Then during Red Cliff Award, also his role probably the future historians.
mm,
Because right now I don't have a corroborative evidence that not only the Maharaja of Bikaner but also Maharaja Hari Singh played a very important role in the award of Gurdaspur district to India. After this Redcliffe Award was announced, in fact, Maharaja had lot many problems. Jammu Pathankot Road, there was a boat bridge.
and
It was not a
it
concrete
is
track
said in the lighter vein, it is said that Radcliffe did everything while being in England, and he did it on his table. He didn't
table.
actually go to the site.
That is perfectly true. So what I said, it corroborates that. Then Britishers had their own way of compensating Pakistan in the eastern sector, helping India here in this Gurdaspur sector.
And
That is a separate
there
structure.
was a threat of Tsarist Russia. I mean, at the head, and they
Yes,
wanted to create a
yes,
buffer
yes,
zone kind of a
yes.
thing. Yeah.
So after this Redcliffe Award was announced, Maharaja became a little more confident. But the problem was he had three major problems. One problem was the Jammu Pathankot road. this had to be upgraded to a regular metal road, and new bridges had to be there, because in case of supplies and troops, they could not come if there was not a good track. Second thing was problem of his army. He was militarily weak, in the sense he had only 9,000 troops to defend the border right from Nobra to Katwa. That is, I think, 400 and 300. That is about 8 900 kilometers. And in 9,000 soldiers he had in his army, about
mm,
35 to 40% was already collaborating with Pakistanis. Pakistanis had brainwashed them through communal propaganda and conspiracy. In fact, I hit upon a new evidence while I was researching on this. In 1946, there was a person, Major Mirza Hassan Jaral.
mm.
I have referred to him in my Gilgit story also. I referred to him in the introduction also.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes, he and some other officers, they are believed to have met Jinnah in Bombay in January 1946. And they sought his advice. They told them what brought them here would guide them further also. So it was ample without elaborating. This was a message. So on their return, they formed a subversive cell that was known as Secret Military Revolutionary Council.
Yes,
That they started brainwashing these JCOs and other soldiers and other officers also. So out of 9,000, Maharaja was left with only 5,000 soldiers on whom he could depend.
mm,
And then another problem was his commander in chief was Brigadier Scott. Hello?
yes, 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 yes.
Brigadier Scott. Brigadier Scott was also playing the British game. He
Mm,
dispersed Maharaja's forces into what is called as penny pockets. He distributed these 5,000 soldiers over the long borders, so that at no place Maharaja's army was capable to give an effective resistance in case it was attacked from outside. So, with this situation about his army, the third thing was, then it was a Muslim majority state, and in case Maharaja would take a hasty decision on accession to India, then there could have been a possible revolt within, and or attack by Pakistan. So Maharaja would not like to do something which could, and he was not militarily supplies from the military supplies he had ordered from the government of India. Those were being blocked by the British officers serving
mm,
in Indian army. So what he would do? So
mm,
that was after this August Red Cliff Award. He took three major decisions.
mm.
He changed his prime minister. He brought Meherchand Mahajanji, who had direct access to Sardar Patel ji.
And Gandhi
Then
also. Gandhi,
yes,
he
then
was Gandhi's
yes,
choice as well. Yeah.
yes. Then second thing he got, Maharaja was systematically taking right steps at the right time. Then he got this Colonel Kashmir Singh Katoch. He was brought from Indian Army to the state army as military
Deputation
advisor.
came back. Yeah.
Yes. Then simultaneously, after these three major steps, he started attending to the problem. Then another fourth thing, Maharaja of Patiala was a great friend of his, and he was a great patriot. He asked Maharaja of Patiala to lend him some
Reinforcement.
troops so that
Yeah.
so that he could spare troops for borders and Kashmir's defense. Then at the same time, he started pursuing accession with India.
Mm,
I have, during my research work, I come across the evidence that some important influential Congress leaders, they were advising Maharaja to go slow on accession. They had a reason, because Hyderabad and Junagadh,
they were
unless
waiting,
their problems were
undecided.
similar to J&K, they felt if we rush through the accession, possibly Pakistan might create mischief on Junagadh. So I have a very reliable evidence
No,
that
that is that
Congress
is that
leader,
is authentic one. That is authentic one.
yeah,
That is authentic.
Shivalal Saxena did come, and through Mr. Sham Sundar Dar, he met Maharaja. He is reported to have asked Maharaja to go a little slow, but at the same time, Maharaja opened direct communication with Sardar Patel. On
Mm,
Maharaja's side, Thakur Harnam Singh Pathania, a brilliant officer in the State Forest Department, he was chief conservator. On Sardar Patel's side, there was Diwan Gopal Das. Uh, so Maharaja and negotiations started. But these on Sardar Patel and Maharaja side, they had similar view how to proceed about and bring about the accession and take care of the security and other interests of the JNK state. But the problem was with Pandit Nehru. Pandit Nehru felt, and possibly wrongly, he felt that Kashmir can. He was more interested in Kashmir than rest of the state. This is what my evidence also says. So he felt Kashmir, for Kashmir he has to be Sheikhullah has to be given a major role, but he gave him the full role. And Pandit Nehru said he would have nothing to do with accession, acceptance of accession, unless Sheikhullah was incorporated into the power structure.
Incorporated in that, yeah, main as the
Yes,
main pillar
in
of this
fact,
agreement.
yes, in fact, I mentioned in my book also by September 10 or 11, Maharaj had clearly decided that he had to go for accession, and there is some evidence also. Then Sardar Patel was also cautious, but after Junagadh's accession was accepted by Pakistan, Sardar Patel came openly for accession of JNK to India.
Earlier he
Sec-
was reluctant. Earlier he was
uh,
reluctant.
he was slow, not reluctant, not slow.
Before it is said that somewhere I have read that he has even said that what before this Radcliffe Award also, that he has said, he had asked Nehru that whatever you go to the diseased part of the body, something like that. Somewhere
No,
in some
but
book I have read.
since it is not since this cannot be verified, so as a researcher,
Anyway,
I'd like to go by the written evidence or something which is more circumstantial evidence.
hmm.
Then on October 7, Pakistan moved two army brigades to Sialkot, and that alerted Sardar Patel. He wrote a letter to Sardar Baldev Singh, who was his defense minister, that Pakistan is planning a Nazi-style
Nazi
invasion,
style intervention.
an
Yeah, you have
invasion
written that.
waged
Yeah.
through non-state actors, but directly done by this Pakistan government. So that
Tamil
is
Saab,
the time.
Tamil Saab, let us now first of all. I have a habit of going invotendo.
Yes,
Let's
yes,
go
no problem.
upside down. Let's go.
Yes,
Let's first of all start with the Gilgit. Let's
yes,
first of all start with your book and the chapter of Gilgit, causes and
yes,
debacle of elements involved. Let's start from there.
yes.
And after
So
that,
I
we come to the
right, right.
Mirpur and Alibeg and other places. Yeah.
Yes. Uh, I have come across a reference, and I am still looking for something more to corroborate that. By by last week of September 1947, a sort of a draft agreement was reached between Sardar Patel and Sardar Patel and Maharaja Hari Singh. I would not like to talk more about that, but there was a definite plan how to secure Gilgit. So I'd leave it there and wait for the more corroborative evidence on that. But this Gilgit, 31st of July, this 31st of July, Maharaja Hari Singh, they appointed Brigadier Gansar Singh and
Gansar Singh,
sent him as new governor of Gilgit, because
great
after the
personality.
lapse of, huh? Yes,
Great
because
personality.
after, yes, yes, yes. Uh, there were three, four problems I highlighted in my book also. Some of the mistakes which were avoidable, and sometimes
Limited
I
powers. He was
baffled.
not given the full powers
Yeah,
also, is
no,
what
I'll
I
just
understand.
mention some things. For example, Brigadier Gansar Singh told them that they should not keep British people as a political agents. That was a blunder. Major Brown, then Captain
Major
Matheson,
Brown.
who was his deputy. Second thing was he was not given any magisterial or military powers to deal at a time when subversion was haunting
At the borders.
the state security. Third thing was that they posted a man, notorious man, Major Mirza Hassan Jaral.
Oh, he was
They
the
posted his D company of the 6th JK Infantry to Gilgit, that was stationed in Bonji. In fact, that became the total undoing of this Gilgit. That is how we lost Gilgit. I personally feel that had there used to be the fifth battalion of headed by Captain Durga Singh. He was shifted, and Major Hassan Jalal was brought there. Besides him, there was a Sikh company also, which was headed by Captain Baldev Singh. So I feel, since my book directly deals with impact on the minorities,
Yeah.
so these aspects I did not elaborate further in my book. I'll do it
Mm.
in a separate work.
So let's come to a second aspect that's very important. That what
Now,
the
one thing
role of
about
time.
Gilgit, one thing about
Yes,
Gilgit,
please.
Major, it was not only Major Brown, it was also this group of the deserters of Mirza Major Hassan Jalal. I think in the future works, both these factors have to be kept in mind. How this all started and what would we have done to avoid that.
Mhm. What is the
Yes,
role of the
please go.
communist, die-hard communists in those times, and the INA, retired INA, brass of army people,
Yes,
ex-army people from INA?
I'll first speak about the communists.
Okay.
1942, during Quit India movement, the Communist Party had a volte-face. They uh, they prepared a thesis which is known as Adhikari thesis. It recognized religion as the basis of formation of nationalities. So they worked up a plan where India would be divided into 16 pieces. There was very,
Oh,
I have written earlier also, very shameful chapter of the
very
communists.
shameful, very shameful.
Ah, uh,
And it is said
then
that in those times, all communists in those times, in 40s, before 47, were all nationalists. They supported Indian nation, complete Indian sovereignty, and all.
I'll say 2 points more here. Then Communist Party justified creation of Pakistan. In fact, that became the basis. By 1944, many Muslim communists they joined Pakistan. Even this Sajjad Zahir was sent to Pakistan. Initially, Dr. K.M. Ashraf was, Daniel Latifi was also there. There are a lot many people. I- And during that time, there was a person, his name is Latif Afghani. He used to come to Kashmir in 1940s.
Latif
I have
Afghani
heard,
also. Very, you have
his name,
devoted a chapter for Latif Afghani's complete
yes, I
chapter.
purposely did it.
Yeah.
Because because Mr. Jalali, P.N. Jalali and Dr. N.N. Raina would frequently bring his name in conversations. Latif Afghani was a person who, in 1944, he joined Muslim League. In fact, it is really shameful that person also joined National Guards to destabilize the government of the secular person, Sir Sikandar Hayat Khan.
Oh,
And this Khizr Hayat Khan,
Siddhar Hayat Khan.
Khizr Tiwana. And then this Latif Afghani, his sister was in British intelligence department as well as a crypto stenographer, and they were close to Colonel Akbar Khan's family, also his wife.
Yeah, I read
So
that.
Latif Afghani was playing both roles, and he was closer to Mia Iftikharuddin also. He had been previously a congressman, and later he became one of the top leaders of Muslim League.
Hmm.
So that is the role of Latif Afghani, the Iftikharuddin. Then Faiz Ahmad Faiz was also associated, was
As about
taken into
that, it
confidence.
astonishes me. It astonishes me how a person of the stature, a poet of a stature, a literati of the stature of Faz Ahmad Faz, with so much of rationality in his poetry and a devoted communist as well, how could he be roped into in this conspiracy? I mean, please throw some light over it. Yeah.
No, I would only. There were two reasons. One was that this Communist Party's Adhikari thesis, it made it easier for the Muslim communists like Faz and others to
Hmm.
join Pakistan. So once Pakistan was created, they were swayed by the Muslim subnationalism. And it is intriguing. I'm really that a person like Faz should endorse a invasion plan where they had tie up with Pashtun tribesmen that you could loot and kill and do
Barbaric
anything.
arson
If you
loot.
are part of the, if you are part of some committee in the invasion plan, and that means you are endorsing it.
That's something very, 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 very. I mean,
Ah,
debate. That is something which is not acceptable. I mean, normally we cannot think of all his
yes, yes,
poetry, all his literature. If we read and study deep down, uh,
yes,
opening his wings to such a communal, such a bestial, medieval, I mean, predators, and throwing them open like wolves onto the public by a communist leader like Faz and Faz. It is
yes,
something which is really I can't say what there are no words to say.
yes, 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 yes. Then there was Iqbal Ahmad also. He was a leading left wing theorist. He has
Okay.
given a graphic description in an interview to his wife, in an interview to his daughter. So he was present in Shalteng also. There
Shalting.
were rival clashes between Pashtuns also. I referred in my book. He writes how non-Muslim women were raped by these Pashtun tribesmen and how brutalities were committed. Iqbal Ahmad writes. But what really intrigues me that after 1990, a person who had such an inside view of the brutalities committed by Pashtun tribesmen should support the jihadist campaign in Kashmir. So this communist diabolical approach, it
They give a
really
plea.
needs
They
to
give a plea
be
that they give a plea that
yes,
we simply went there to just make inroads into Muslim League and somewhere
the,
down the line capture the power for the communists. That was the whole.
on both counts it is bad. One is sheer opportunism, and second is you are supporting something that is anti-human.
That's anti-human. No, barbaricism that is not
Yes,
exonerable.
they
That no
cannot
one
be exonerated. They
that is
cannot be
not
exonerated.
exonerable.
What?
That cannot be
Because
exonerated by
yes,
anyone.
yes,
Even
yes, yes,
Nazis till now, I met some German people, a young third generation, fourth generation girl. She had such a terrible complex about being from the country of the Nazis. So it is not
yes,
exonerable. It is deep, goes deep down into the psyche. Such
yes,
barbarian,
yes.
yeah.
And association of communists. In fact, that is really unpardonable. 38,000 were killed. There are
38.
concentration camps and brutalities. I had not been mustering courage to write about these brutalities in the true form. So,
It's
so
very
this
painful. Though going through
very
book, I'm going
painful,
to read
very
it again
painful.
tomorrow. I'm going to read it
Yes,
again
yes,
tomorrow,
yes,
especially that Safru Saab story. My goodness,
yes,
it takes me to the Papillon. It takes me to the Papillon. That movie by
yes, yes.
even the novel I have read.
This story came by accident. Do you know it? This story came by accident.
My
My
goodness, such a great
accident, because
escape.
I joke with people that Goddess Sharda has been very kind to me. Some unplanned stories by accident. This was
Stories
one
by
of those
accident.
stories which came by accident. My
But
father
that
was
is
taken.
something that is something which is really heartening, which is really heartening. This is extremities of human
Yes,
barbarianism, and survival
yes, yes, yes.
compromises. And I mean that he character आंखों में
Yes,
आंसू आ जाते हैं साहब आंखों
for
में
a
आंसू आ जाते
researcher for a researcher like me who studies the Holocaust, two things are very important. One is objectivity.
हैं
One should
objectivity is
never distort a fact. That is, if you are
distortion.
doing it, uh, this is unpardonable. Second is empathy. The sort of compromises you mentioned just now, whatever people do, whatever the victims do in those situations, which might look to a distant observer that they made this compromise or that compromise, it is not like that. One needs to do Holocaust studies with empathy, regard their stories with empathy, understand the situation, the context in which people were trying to escape from the situation, managing to survive, leading
Tamiri
a
sir,
subhuman.
what about
Yes,
INA? We
yes,
have to
yes,
move
yes.
forward quickly. What
uh,
about INA?
what
I mean, such a disciplined,
frankly speaking,
rational,
yes,
secular
yes,
force under the command
yes,
of Netaji
yes,
Subhash Chandra
yes,
Bose. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. Frankly speaking, when I took up this study and I was halfway through, I was not knowing this aspect of ex-INA personnel, particularly the senior people who had been in very senior positions in the INA. One was Colonel MZ Kiani.
Kiani sir.
One of the invasion plans was drafted by MZ Kiani. The difference between the Khan Abdul Qayyum Khan's plan and MZ Kiani's plan is that Khan Abdul Qayyum Khan gives the main focus on recruitment of Pashtun tribesmen, whereas Kiani's focus was that they would use the Punch ex-soldiers. MZ Kiani was kept in charge of one sector, the headquarters. He had a key role in 1947. Then second person was, and MZ Kiani was a top commander of Subhash Chandra Bose.
Yes. He was one
MZ,
of the top Rus
yes,
military
yes,
leaders. Yeah.
and you will not believe it. MZ Kiani was appointed as political agent in Gilgit, a post which was earlier occupied by Major Brown, and in Ziaul Haq's government he became information minister.
Information minister.
He became an information minister. Second person was Colonel Habibur Rahman, the man who was with Netaji Subhash Chandra
Even
Bose
last, up to
when there
last,
was crash, Tepai.
crash,
Yes,
up to crash.
Colonel Habibur Rahman became a close confidant of Jinnah, and in summer of 1947, Jinnah sent him as his emissary to Srinagar to talk to Maharaja and Arsikak. So he was very important. He became a very important person in the Muslim League hierarchy. And he was given Bimbar and Kotli sectors, the major massacres, the brutalities.
Oh,
These
yeah.
were committed on his instructions. So
You have written it.
I told you the second thing. The third person, his name was Colonel Mataul Muluk. He was also from this Chitral Mehtar family.
Mhm.
Colonel Mataul Mulk, the brutal killings. In fact, one of his telegrams, which he sent to the Pakistani Army Command after Sherjang Thapa's forces they lost to the Pakistanis.
Lost.
This
Yeah.
telegram mentioned all six shot, all women raped, and he was a senior person in the INA army. Then other INA person was Colonel Arshad, Colonel H.R.
Shame.
Rahman, Burhanuddin Muluk. Burhanuddin Muluk's during his time also when the people non-Muslims were being shifted from Chilas to Peshawar. It was horrible. Many people narrated me horrible details. I had not mentioned those details in my book because I found it unspeakable.
Yes, very sad. And Dr. Tamiri, I would like to go to it was similar to the, even worse than the Nazi concentration camps,
Yes, yes.
Ali Bag camp,
Ali Beg Cab, yes.
Ali Beg camp, and as you have written, and that people were taken away and then finally killed every consecutive day, and a lot of brutalities happen. And some survivor who was a swimmer, he swam across, he escaped. Tell us something about this one of the greatest Holocaust. And I mean, it is inhuman. Probably, I think it has surpassed even the Nazis.
Yes, yes, yes. In fact, I personally believe this Ali Beg camp. It was a nightmare for the people who were housed in the camp. Mirpur, there were 7, 8 massacres. One was at Dharamsal, then Thatal, and then Kasguma, then Mirpur Courthouse, Akalgad, and the major concentration camp. It functioned at this Ali Beg camp. About 3,500, 3,000 to 3,500 people. They were brought there. They were denied basic facilities. There was not even sufficient water available. And after these massacres also, at the instance of Sardar Ibrahim Khan, I have direct evidence for him and I have indirect evidence for this Khwaja Abdul Rahim, the notorious man who was commissioner of Rawalpindi. In fact, he arranged all the logistics for this invading force. Since I have direct evidence for Sardar Ibrahim Khan, on his instructions, the massacres were carried out in a very planned and systematic way. After they would take 8 to 10 people every day. They would ask them that you have to collect rations or you have to collect firewood, and they would take them to the upper Jhelum Canal.
Oh, yes.
They would strip them naked, then kill them with axes, and these were horrible killings. And then they would push them into the canal. One day, the very famous lawyer of this Mirpur, his name was Lala Sitaram Vakil, a great man.
Respected.
Uh, he, Harbans Lal Gupta, and few others, they were taken to the upper Jhelum Canal. After watching this, what these Pakistani were doing to the victims, Harbans Lal Gupta told them, "You have to kill me. I don't say don't kill me, but at least leave the method of choice of killing, choice of the method to me. Please kill me with a bullet." He entered into an argument with the killer who was going to kill him. Then,
Mm.
meanwhile, he lost his balance and he fell into the canal.
Saving grace.
He was a good swimmer. He was a good swimmer, and luck was on his side. He swam for about 1 or 2 kilometers.
Oh.
These invaders, they started firing on him. Then some jumped into the canal. But since the God was with him, then after he swallowed some water also. Then finally, when he saw that he could safely go to the other bank, he was feeling drowsy. He fell into a ditch. He must have cried something. This alerted the owner of the neighboring house, who was a contractor. That whole story I have written in my book.
Yeah, that is written.
I
Yeah.
because there is no need of repeating it here.
Mm.
And then how Mia Amesha, he came to his help, because there are always people in Holocaust situations, 1 or 2 people who
Good people.
rise above the madness and who really display the highest values of humanity. In fact, my book quotes a lot of such instances.
Mm.
Those are at the individual level only. You cannot take that as a collective sentiment, because where individuals, they rise above the collective madness and they
Mm.
display. Mia Amisha will go down in history as one of those persons. In fact, Harbans Lalji's son, Ved Prakash Gupta, whom I interviewed for this great story, and in fact, my story is perhaps the only complete and the reliable story where I mentioned, because the testimony is based on Mr. Ved Prakash Gupta.
Okay. So yeah, that
And
is
out of, no, just one point, out of
yes.
3,500 people in Ali Beg camp, only 1,600 people survived.
Right.
And even those would not have survived, because the two people who ran away, Mr. Jagmohan and Ved Prakash Gupta, they ran away and they reached the Indian embassy in Lahore. They told them that
Mm.
such things are happening in Ali Beg camp. Then they sought the intervention of Government of India, International Red Cross. Things stopped after that.
Mm. Would you like to say something about the Skardu and the Mirpur, the resistance by the places where the locals had a very tough resistance against the
Yes,
invaders, and
yes,
finally they fell
yes,
because of lack
yes.
of reinforcement from the
Mirpur,
government?
Mirpur. There was not only good defense by the state forces, but there was very good civilian defense also. In fact, the RSS volunteers, 1,500 of them, they organized such a good defense of the Mirpur town that they could hold back the Pakistani invaders who had encircled it. They could hold them away for as many as 1 month, 30 days.
Mm.
That is one Mirpur. Second is this Kotli. Kotli also they held on for 2 months, and when then finally government of India were able to evacuate the civilian population safely of about 10,000 people. In Rajouri, the things were moving very fast. Uh, on 9th and 10th of November, the RSS volunteers and other civilians, they organized very good defense, and they held on they fought against, they gave effective resistance to the Pakistanis for 18 hours. And after 18 hours, when there was little hope, Rajouri was also poorly defended because it was away from the border area and there are
Yeah,
not many state troops there. I mentioned that in detail. And after everything was over, then finally I have given stories about how people swallowed poison, how they asked their near and dear ones to kill them. Then in Rajouri there were a number of massacres. There's a separate story all documented in my book.
yeah, that's what women folk, they threw their bodies
Yes,
on the
yes,
in the
very, very
river.
painful, very painful to
Very
hear, very painful to write.
medieval,
Very,
predators.
very.
Predate.
In
I
fact,
mean, that's,
yes,
yeah.
Rajouri, it happened on the day of Diwali. Many years back, I think about 20 years back, I happened to read an
Mm.
article by Mohan Guruswamy, a leading columnist. He wrote in
Mm.
Indian Express that people in Rajouri do not celebrate Diwali. But after I started work and I got hold of a very good memoir by Kishorilal Jinjotia, who was a
Mhm.
Holocaust survivor, I was able to reconstruct the this Rajouri Holocaust in perspective.
There is a one sigh of relief in this entire Holocaust. I feel about you have written very wonderfully That is about Master Abdul Aziz from Muzaffar.
Yes.
Kashmiris played a very good role. Kashmiris,
Uh,
wherever they were, except
uh,
in one case, one instance,
no.
uh,
Yes.
and Kashmiris and non-Kashmiri Muslims as well. That Master Abdul Aziz in Muzaffarabad, Thekedar Abdul Aziz Mirpur, Mia Abdullah Rajori, Buddal Chasna, Haji Muhammad Khan, Pir Sayuddin Shah, Mir Zaman, Sharda at the Sharda, Raja Nisar Ali Khan at Khaplu, Akram Hussain at Kotli, Sanaullah Dar ministers. Tell us something about a bit of
Yes.
story threading.
Master Abdul Aziz was no doubt associated with national conference, but the people who played their role, it was not their party affiliation or party ideology. They were the people who had the
Individuals.
greatest values, who had imbibed the greatest values of humanity. Master Abdul Aziz was a tailor, and the Wazir Wazarat of that time, Duni Chand Mehta ji also respected, Maharaja Hari Singh also respected him. He kept his house for the refuge of 300 or 400 people, and
Hmm.
finally he was killed. I have given two accounts. I have given a detailed account of his story, what I had heard from
Yes.
Bishamarnath Sapruji, what I had heard about, what I had read about the memoir of Krishna Mehtaji, and other. In fact, there is a good book by a Pakistani, Wounded
Hmm.
Memories. He has criticized the Pakistani brutalities and other things. So I was able to construct the role of Maharaja, this Master of the Aziz. I tried my best to arrange photograph of Master of the Aziz from national conference people, but I was not successful. Then
Okay.
second thing is whom I consider a superhuman. His name is Thekedar Abdul Aziz.
Abdul.
There is a place in Mirpur that is known as Dutyal. Many of the people who are trapped in the Mirpur situation, in fact, they would try that they should be shifted to the Dutyal camp. This camp was run by this Thekedar Abdul Aziz all
Hmm.
by himself. He was a wealthy person, his wife, his daughter. They ensured not only refuge for these women to escape to escape
That's great.
these Pakistanis and their local collaborators, but he also he also organized such defense of the camp, because locals and others and many locals had forcibly taken these Hindu and Sikh women as wives. He got many of them rescued. Many of them rescued. I feel some researchers should really dig out those stories. What remarkable role he did. And in Rajouri, 252 people were taken by the retreating invaders to Kotli, children and women. Uh, Through the intervention of some people in Rajouri, they were successfully shifted to Dutyal camp. In fact, I'll tell the last thing about him,
Hmm.
that in 1951, some of these unfortunate women, one of these unfortunate women had to perform a marriage. Government of India gave special permission to
Hmm.
Thekedar Abdul Aziz to attend that wedding in Delhi. And many of these ladies, they fell on his feet for the role he had done for them. Then another thing was Mir Zaman. He was Nambardar in
Mir
Sharda.
Zaman.
Very Mir Zaman. In fact, when I recorded the story of testimony of Shambhunath Thusu, you will not believe he broke down when he said what Mir Zaman did for them. Then Mia Abdullah in Rajouri, I have given the testimony of Professor Dr. Virender Gupta ji.
Hmm.
He helped these women. In fact, there were many people in the countryside where 12 to 1500 Hindus were given shelter by some families on an individual basis. Even their children were against them.
Then again.
In Budal and Chesana, the role of Haji Muhammad Khan, it is really needs to be written in letters of gold what he has done. I tried my best to arrange his photograph, but the family had no photograph.
And in
Uh,
Sharda also this at the Sharda,
Mir Zaman played the role.
Mir Zaman played. Okay.
Mir Zaman. Then Raja Nasir Ali Khan was king of Khaplu principality. In fact, in Baltistan, the role of people, the role of rulers was very bad. There was only one exception. There was Raja Nasir Ali Khan. He was
mm,
held in. He did not want to accede to Pakistan, but his circumstances forced him. Maharaja Hari Singh would even break protocol when he would visit Srinagar. He ensured when there was threat of when he feared the security of doctor, then his pharmacist and the Sikh traders, he called them to his, he gave them protection in his palace. But then after some time he felt there was not much problem, but unfortunately the postmaster there and a Yagistani, uh, they
Dagestan.
killed Dr. Sarvanand Hastwala and
Oh,
also his pharmacist Kishwanath. So that is Raja Nasir Ali. They're really a great man.
give
Then,
us a small. Yeah, yeah. Please,
huh?
please,
Yeah,
please
they
continue.
were from the Yabgo dynasty. Then there was another person, Akram Hussain. Akram Hussain
Mm.
in Kotli was the first to warn Hindus that Pakistan was going to attack them. Then at personal level, Sanullah Dar, he had been resident of Sopor. He became a minister in the POK government. He knew Dr. J.N. Vatal, who was in Askardu. He knew Maheshwara Thranaji, who was in Gilgit. So there we cannot say it was a general approach of humanist approach, but since he was known to
Majority,
them,
majority
she was
remains
known to
silent.
them.
Yeah, the arsenal
Yes,
loot was
yes,
taken.
yes. Because except in Gilgit, there were no killings in Gilgit. That is very
There were no
significant.
killings in Gilgit. I mean,
Yes.
was the population very thin, or
No,
was
no,
the
no, no,
attitude of
no,
the
no, no, no,
people?
no, no, no. People of Gilgit did not allow killing of non-Muslims. And
Okay,
second, in Chilas, once Kashmiri,
yeah.
these non-Muslims were taken for conversion. Chilasis are very reliable people to their friends.
Oh.
They ransacked the fort. They got them back. So we must be very fair. People of Baltistan played a very bad role, very bad role. But Gilgit was contrast.
And Gujar community also. There are instances here in your book. Some Gujar families also they did.
Which were
In your book, there
uh,
is a reference about a Gujar family. I don't know. Maybe one among them you listed just now.
I
There was
think
some.
Mia Abdullah. Yes, Mia Abdullah.
Yeah,
Mia Abdullah.
New Abdullah.
Mia
Yeah.
Abdullah did a commendable job.
Hmm. Okay. So that's how it is. Do you think that if the Indian Army, I mean, when Indian Army came in, and if it had predated, things would have been different, or
Absolutely, absolutely. And there was a chance. Uh, because even if even on 24th of October, when Maharaja Hari Singh sent his deputy Prime Minister Ramlal Batra to Delhi
Hmm.
for getting this accession signed, government of India they did not agree unless Sheikhullah was incorporated. Had they accepted it, there would have been no problem in Baramulla.
Hmm.
And earlier, when on October 10th or 11th, when Maharaja sent Meherchand Mahajan to Delhi for getting this accession signed, there would have been no loss of one third of the state. All these 38,000 people would have been saved.
You mentioned a paragraph about Subhash Chandra Bose in your book. Uh,
Yes,
Very
yes,
brief
yes,
one.
yes.
Yeah.
It was it was not to discuss Subhash Chandra Bose, but it was in a reference to one article published by Nandalal Chakrabarti,
Hmm.
possibly some academician in Calcutta. He had written an article in Statesman that Amjad Kyani's involvement in the Pakistani invasion was to
Hmm.
create a safe passage for Subhash Bose because he was under the eyes of for this
Imperialist.
Because Britishers wanted to harm him, so he wanted to create a passage by invading Kashmir and Chitral. Very far fetched. It is laughable. So
Yeah, it's
I'm
laughable. It's
contesting that.
ludicrous. It is ludicrous rather.
Ridiculous, ridiculous. Because after 1938, Nehru and Subhash Bose had no communication. So how would Nehru want Subhash Bose to come and then these INA people would attack India? All funny. Funny.
Gossip story.
Gossip,
What
gossip.
about Balraj Madhok? Balraj, there is a somewhere there is I appeared into my pages that Balraj Madhok. You mentioned Balraj Madhok. Tell me something about Balraj Madhok's role in your research and his memoirs, or what you know about Balraj
Uh,
Madhok in connection with these raids.
yes, yes, yes. Balram Madhok was a was a very good historian. He served in Kashmir. In fact, and he was definitely involved in RSS. Around 1,000 people in Kashmir in 1947, most of them Kashmiri Pandits and some Punjabi Hindus also, they were part of the RSS organization. Mr.
Okay.
Makhanlal Emma, Owen Kak, and
Nama
few
Sahab, yeah,
names
Shailendar's
also.
father. Shailendar's father.
Yes, 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 yes. In fact, Shailendar's father, he was always given great respect by Professor Balraj Madhok because once in an interview, Mr. Owen Kachru, who was with RSS at that time, told me
Hmm.
that Emma Saab would never refuse an assignment. So naturally, Professor Madhok would keep great trust in him. In fact, the novel Professor Madhok wrote, Har Ki Jeet,
Har ki
he
jeet.
mentions him as a protagonist. One of the main characters in that novel is a tribute to
Well,
Amma
yes,
Saab.
yes. His father, at one point of time, he was very active, and
Very
people
great man,
he
great
had a great
man, great
leadership
man.
quality. Great man.
Ha, great man, great man.
Yeah.
And
They,
now I'll come to Madhokji's role. Madhokji was very alive to the subterranean trends which were shaping, which would destabilize Kashmir, how the things would unfold in the subcontinent. On 20, he came to know that there was a plan from Dr. Atri. Dr. Atri he was from UP. He had a good clinical practice, and many of his patients, they were very wealthy Punjabi Muslims, and some of them were from NWFP. So they, in good faith, since he was a doctor, they advised him that things are going to turn bad and the non-Muslims will be targeted. So they advised him that it is better if he and his family shift out of Kashmir. So that was the news even as early as 10th or 12th of October.
Hmm.
Madhukji was familiar about the news.
Hmm.
Then on 23rd of October, he
Hmm.
gets a call from ADC of Maharaja that
Hmm.
Maharaja wants to talk to you. Then, in the dead of the night, he was taken to Maharaja's palace and
Hmm.
they broached the idea that since there are not enough state troops, would it be possible for his volunteers, if they are given a short training, to assist the state soldiers at the frontier? You will not believe Makhalnal Ahmadji and other people, they were still waiting at their Hazuri Bagh RSS office
Hmm.
when Madhokji returned at around 3 a.m. in the night.
Hmm.
And they were sent on cycles to different parts of the city, and 200 people responded at 6 a.m. They were taken to Badami Bagh, they were given a training, and on 24th, 25th, it was they who ensured that there
Yes,
was
yes.
no attack on the minorities.
Hmm. Yes, yes.
But after this, after accession, National Conference volunteers did not allow them to function, and many of these RSS people, they had to enter the national conferences, these guard force, to do their duty. And then Sheikhullah launched a witch hunting of these RSS people. Mr. Owen Kachru, he was arrested for a year. Many RSS people, they had to leave the state, and then, like you mentioned, one of your relations also, Mr. Cole,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Achan Kaul Sahab. Achan
yes,
Kaul Sahab.
yes,
He
yes.
died in
There were
America then.
many, yes, there were many people who simply had to bid goodbye in 1947. And Madhokji's autobiography, memoir, he has given details about this also. And I have two, three accounts which substantiate that RSS did play a role. And some of these people, because Sheikhullah would not allow them to function as RSS, they went as guides for the Indian Army and other things.
Give us a brief about that great escape of Master Master Sakru.
Yes, 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 yes,
Yeah, give
yes.
us a brief account
Uh,
about it. A
yes, yes.
pressy,
It was
a small
yes,
synopsis.
yes, yes. It was as I told you, it was a story which came by accident. My
Okay.
father was admitted in hospital in Ahmedabad and we had to rush from Jammu. Mr. Safru's son Ashok Safruji, he and his brother were there. Mr. Ashokji, he used to read my articles in Sentinel. He told me, "What are you working on these days?" I told him I am working on the 1947 invasion. Then the two brothers starting, they had some whispering conversation. They said that he should meet our father. I told them, where was your father? When they told Muzaffarabad, till then I did not have any major story about Muzaffarabad, who
Hyderabad.
was really there for 4 5 days. And
Breaking story.
such a master storyteller. I was in Ahmedabad for 3 days only.
Hmm.
He was 82 that time. He had vertigo also. But for 3 hours on one day and 3 hours on the next day,
Hmm.
I must have, it was a 7,000 word story. It was
Hmm.
really something which opened a totally different. In fact, one of these stories which I published in first person in Kashmir Sentinel in its special commemorative issue,
Hmm.
it must have got more than 1 lakh reviews at about 10,000 shares. In fact, funny it may seem, people are sending me the same article that it might help you in research. That is the
It
funny
happens.
side of it. It happens.
And he told about that. That's a wonderful story. I mean,
Yes, yes,
really,
yes,
that's a
yes, yes,
heart-moving, wrenching story.
yes, yes, yes,
Right?
yes.
That is
He
something which.
mentioned a he mentioned a word also when you refer to his heart rending how he had to lift excreta. He said Yamara was zinda in Narok.
It was, and he's
Saprusa
going to
was a
those
great
people
man.
and
In fact,
sleeping and
Sap,
becoming.
Sap,
My God, it is the
he has a
same
great way of
character.
telling. He has a
Dustin
great
Hoffman
way of
playing
telling.
Dustin
Yes,
Hoffman playing Papillon, that character, and
yes,
he
yes, yes, yes,
reconciles with the situation, and
yes,
I mean, just leaves it on the fate and does all the filthy jobs, menial jobs, and
yes, yes.
becomes a cook sometimes, and sometimes he does something else.
Uh,
Really, it's a very pathetic story. A great, I mean, a story of a saga, a bestial saga,
yes, yes,
tragic
yes,
saga.
yes, yes.
Swami Nandalji also escaped. Swami Nandalji,
Swami Nandlal ji used to have his summer residence in Sharda.
okay,
He was a great devotee of Goddess Sharda. He had
Odisha.
tremendous respect in Kupara district in particular and Kashmir Valley. He refused to leave Sharda. He said, unless all Kashmiri Hindu employees who are posted on the outskirts of
Hmm.
Sharda,
Hmm.
they come to Sharda, till then I would not leave. So they were held up for about a month. Mir Zaman, the great Nambardar, he took care of their security. He gave them refuge, and finally he arranged their escape from Sharda.
Okay. And there were few Kashmiri Pandits who reached Leh. I mean, they left Leh, and why Zojila, they
Yes,
went to
yes, 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 yes.
Manali, and there was a through a
Uh,
wonderful expedition. Yeah.
some areas like Leh,
Hmm.
Askardu, and Punch town, these remained under siege for varying duration from 6 months to 1 year. Siege in Askardu could not be relieved, and the people were taken captive. In Punch, we were able to break the siege, and the people were rescued. And particularly, the role of Major Pritam Singh is written, is
Ajay
recalled so well, how he organized the defense of Punch town. In Leh, uh, also, the great role played by Major Prithi Chand, then Colonel Rinchin, the hero of Nobra, then General Thimaya's role, how he
Janath.
motivated Colonel this commander, wing commander Mehban Singh to land the first Dakota in Leh. In fact, that changed the whole situation. That changed the whole situation. Kashmiri Pandits, they left Leh, and after 2 months they reached the Manali. Luckily, I was able to arrange a photograph from one of the survivors. It's a rare photograph
Okay.
in Manali.
Yeah, yeah.
There were
It is
26.
there in
There
the
were
book.
26 members of the Kashmiri Pandit families. The
Hmm.
doctor, the postmaster, the teachers.
Kiran Matal's father had also, I mean,
Yes, yes, yes,
Kiran Matal, the commissioner,
yes,
different commissioner,
yes,
our
yes, yes,
commissioner,
yes,
he played some role and he gave you memoirs of his father,
yes, yes, yes,
Dr.
yes, yes,
Matal.
yes. In fact, many people, in fact, on 47, there have been accounts on Muzaffarabad by Krishna Mehta ji, wife of then Wazir Wazarat Duni Chand Mehta ji. There were accounts on Mirpur also by educationist Amar Devi, then on Rajori by this Kishori Lal Jinjotia, then on Askardu by the son of Wazir Wazarat, Amarnath ji, his son was S. Kumar Mahajan. But
Mm,
what looked intriguing to me, that there was virtually no record or no historiography on how Kashmiri Pandits faced. In
mm,
fact, that became, it hurt my sensibility that a community which produces such outstanding historians like Kalhan, John Raj, would leave one of the major episodes in their history unrecorded.
mm,
That is how it gave me a lot of adrenaline and motivation to cover this. There were, when I started working, there were some people had attempted to write at least their personal memoir. One was Premnath Dar.
mm.
His story will be in a separate volume. But the then government, they confiscated those 20 pages and he had to leave the state also. Then an attempt was made by Mr. Nandalal Koul. He was an educationist and the father of my very close friend and great sociologist, Professor Ashok Koul.
Ashok Kolji, he
He
was on my
also,
show. Mm.
yes, he also wrote an account of that trauma. Then third person was Mr. Shivji Tikku. The three Patwaris who were who were with him, they were killed, and he escaped, and he survived miraculously after being fired upon. He also wrote a memoir. I tried my best to. I interviewed his son, Trulukinath Tikku. Um, uh, I interviewed him, and he told me that his father has written a memoir, and he would the family stays at Pune. He told me that once he goes back to Pune, he will ensure that this memoir reaches him. But before this could be done, or he could share the photograph of his father. Unfortunately, the Lukunath ji, who had come to visit Jammu, he fell ill and he passed away. Then we had another two more memoirs. One was by Govindram. My book mentions that he had a lot of tragedies. Since it is already covered in my book, I'd only refer to the memoir he wrote. He gave a copy of that detailed memoir to Mr. Madanji Gunju, and
Mm.
that was lost in a fire accident in 1970. Then the last thing I heard that somebody wrote about the Muzaffarabad days was Balbadar Bhatt. I interviewed his son.
Okay.
He had written this memoir in Persian, and he had kept it with someone. I tried my best to arrange through my friends, but so only thing was the account of Skardu days by Dr. G.N. Vatalji, Kiran Vatalji's father,
Dr.
and is a
Vatal.
very important document. And luckily, this document and the interviews I conducted with Nandalal Bomruji, he was
Nandlal
the
Bhatt.
man who prepared the airstrip in Askardu,
Oh,
and this Ratanlal Nadarji's son also. Then Mr. J.L. Warku Saab, I mentioned that killing in the Skardu. His
mm,
son-in-law, M.L. Tikuji, was kind enough to record his wife's testimony on my behalf, and he sent that copy to me.
mm,
Then yes, then Nandalal Raina ji, he was postmaster in fact his daughter died in during that one of the air attacks. That is also mentioned by Air Marshal Bharat Kumar in his book. And Nandalal ji's son, he shared a family photograph of Askardo, a rare photograph where that small kid, 1 or 2 year old, is present in the
That's
photograph. So
you
I
about the
use these.
wealth
Yes,
of photographs. I think let's talk about the structural part of the book. Its conception from
yes,
conception
yes,
because
yes,
it took you almost 23 years, and it is
yes.
based mostly based on the primary source, secondary source, and and then you have the interviews, vast sampling of the interviews and corroborative evidences
I
and
conducted
the
over
photographs.
450 interviews. I conducted over 450 interviews. In
Okay.
fact, these cover six also, and some from the Jammu region. In fact, when I prepared the first draft, it was 1400 pages, 1500 pages. Now, all
Oh.
this cannot be plowed into the books, even three
Mm,
books.
mm.
So, I had to do a meticulous select, rather, I had to decide for myself how this would come. You please.
What do you attribute to the fall of Muzaffarabad and other places despite Indian Army intervening at the right time? I mean, why did
No,
these places? I mean, was it the
no, no.
British? Why are you? Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, in fact, on 14th of November, we stopped at Uri. I don't subscribe to the view that just because there was a ethnic divide, that the portion behind Uri was non-Kashmiri
Non-Kashmiri.
and they did not want.
You
I
don't
don't
subscribe to
subscribe.
that.
I don't subscribe to that. In
Okay.
fact, at that moment of time, they had instructions to ensure the defense of Punch. And in later period, there is evidence that our army drafted a plan to get back Muzaffarabad. uh,
Mm,
Britishers played their role, and they pressurized Nehru. And then some other military strategies say there was a long line of communication. It would not have been logistically,
mm.
militarily possible to manage that, but that is a military expertise. There's a military that is for the army strategists to decide. I'm not competent to discuss that.
No, no, no. But you said very rightly that because they pressurized Nehru ultimately, and Nehru acceded to them.
Yes, yes,
So this
yes,
normal
yes, yes.
saying that Sheikh Saab, it was Sheikh Saab's best, this is wrong. I think this
Absolutely
analogy
wrong.
is
Absolutely wrong.
absolutely wrong.
Absolutely wrong.
Right, it had no
Absolutely
role.
wrong.
It had role, and certain things we must appreciate that at least army, despite of complacency and despite of other things, the Indian army. Because I remember one incident in one interview, General Manik Shah says that he was sitting there. Dipidar was also probably nearby, and Sardar Patel was there, and Nehru was there. And what do you call it? Manik Shah says that Nehru was talking and all that, and ultimately Patel got angered. He said, Jawahar, you want Kashmir or not? And he said, yes,
Yes.
yes, Kashmir is ours. And then he told the commander there, this Manik Shah and others, he said that go and start your work. You got your approval. So complacency.
That was on 26th of October, when
Yeah.
Maharaja had already signed accession,
Mm,
and it was put to the government defense committee for approval.
mm.
That the discussion you referred to, it
Yeah, yeah.
refers to that situation.
Why should we deny whatever role Sheikh Saab played in especially opposing Jinnah's plan and he preparing his grounds? Maybe in Srinagar, may not be in the extremities, but at least he played a very vital role in remaining with the India, not being neutral like R.C. Ramchand Kak wanted it, like like the Prime Minister of then Maharaja wanted it. Somewhere down the line, we must give some credit to Sheikh Saab also. Don't
No,
you
I
think?
have a different view. I have a different view
Anyway,
altogether,
we
because there
agree
is
to
a very important.
disagree on this point.
I'm sorry to differ. There is a very, very important book based
Yeah.
on primary sources, and that is book by Testament
Mm,
of Sheikhullah by Bilqis Tasir, whose husband, Dr. M.D. Tasir, was principal of SC College.
mm,
Sheikhullah did send Mr. G.M. Sadiq to Lahore for negotiations. There is one thing. Second thing, which most people do not know, on 2nd of October, Sheikh Abdullah went with Iftikharuddin to Lahore. And in fact, Mia Iftikharuddin had taken consent from Jinnah that we would meet Sheikhullah. Why should Sheikhullah have gone with Mia Iftikharuddin?
I mean, that could be
There's
that
one
could be a
thing.
speculative
Second,
theory because the whole
yeah,
cadre was built there. Yeah. Yes.
no, no, but then third
Mm,
thing was, there is a very important confidential document by Ram Manohar Lohia also to Nehru.
mm,
Then immediately more important details, since that is part of a separate work, I will not dwell on that.
mm,
But I personally feel Maharaja Hari Singh was the only person during those 4 5 months who are taking full care of the national
Well,
interests. And
even
I'll prove
the
it.
standstill agreement, what Maharaja Hari Singh did standstill agreement with the Jinnah, and even he had he was in conversation with Jinnah's what do you call it, ambassadors and Jinnah's people around. It's not that Hari Singh
Uh,
was not in contact. Yeah,
no, no, no. He was not in directly contact. These are routine things because when there
yeah.
was economic blockade, I have referred to in my book,
Economic
uh,
blockade, yes, yes. There was
economic
a plan.
blockade.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Mr. ASB Shah,
Mm,
a very powerful bureaucrat and closely involved with the invasion conspiracy, he came to
mm,
meet Meherchand Mahajan.
Merchant Mahajan.
So
And Dr.
Maharaja
Saab,
had clear view.
Dr. Saab, how do you take this replacement of RC Kak that's gone, but Meherchand Mahajan's role as a prime minister at that time, and in this entire imbroglio, how did he act? How he utilized his faculties to facilitate this, and where did he fail, and where he was interrupted?
No, I don't think he failed anywhere. He played a positive role because because he had access to the Congress leadership also, and
And
particularly
he was a
Sardar
chosen
Patel,
person from Patel, Sardar
Sardar
Patel.
Patel, and
Yes,
this Meherchand Mahajan was a great nationalist. In fact, his
he was a
in-laws
national.
belonged to Mirpur. His in-laws belonged to
Mirpur.
Mirpur. He
Mirpur
had
of
clear
Himachal Pradesh.
no
Mirpur.
Mirpur of
Acha Mirpur.
J&K.
Acha Mirpur of
Governor
J&K.
of Governor of Askardu, Wazir Amarnath Gupta, who was killed by Pakistanis, was his wife's brother.
Oh, a
Meherchand
great man. He was
Mahajan
a man
tried
of
his
great wisdom and all.
great man. Meherchand Mahajan tried his best to save the people of Mirpur, but
And
that time,
Mirpuris were Mirpuri Sardars. They were quite fighters. They were very brave people. Brave people. They
no,
fought like
Mirpuri
anything.
Hindus also.
Yeah, yeah.
There were not many Sardars in Mirpur. Out
Mm,
of 25,000 non-Muslim population, only 2,000 people were Sardars. But both
okay.
communities fought. Hindus as well as Sikhs gave resistance in Mirpur.
Anything you would like to say at the closure? It was a very wonderful discussion. We
No,
can go on and on. I'm going to read this
yes,
book
yes, yes,
again.
yes.
Not today, not tomorrow, maybe after 15
Ah,
days again, because there are some
no, I
beautiful
think
stories which resemble the Second World War
yes, yes,
stories. So I'm
yes,
fascinated by
yes,
those. I mean,
uh,
human
yes,
everywhere is the same, and human
yes.
jealousy,
I'll talk
human
about
temperament.
how another story came by sheer accident.
You have
That
written
was
some
the Budal
postscript as well.
story.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the Budal story. In fact, I was in Delhi in December 2021. I got a call from Dr. Mohinder Singh. He had remained Deputy Director Health Services. I was not knowing him.
Mm.
He said that he wanted to meet me. He has something very interesting to tell about Budal. I told him I am away. I'll come in the month of February. I went to him, and there was a period when COVID Omicron wave was on, very risky also. But I felt that Budal's story I should have. There were 150 families of Aurora clan. They were involved in the business between Lala Musa and Jammu. They would transport goods, merchandise, very well to do these families.
Oh,
These 1,200 people, they were killed in the great carnage that took place in Buddal. Out of 1,200 people, only three survived. And I interviewed one survivor. His name is Jaswant Singh. In fact, I'm thankful to him for arranging these photographs and giving me the full story on Buddal. Then I started researching what happened in the other villages around Budal. Because as a researcher, you should have a total picture in totality, a composite picture. So
it has
that
to be
there is
dispassionate, and you have to
yes,
decipher
yeah,
everything.
dispassionate because possibly the people whom you can talk now may not be there after some time. So these stories will be lost with the passing away of the people.
Right.
So that is how I worked out the stories of Samod, Daraj, Chitibati, Ganjroli. In fact, a centurion, Sant Singh, he narrated a very interesting thing. In
Mm.
1947, they had sent a top terrorist from Pakistan. His name was Gama Ghazi.
Hmm.
It was Gama Ghazi who Pakistanis wanted to clean the entire area from Naushera to Buddhal, Riasi, and other places of the presence of Hindus and Sikhs. Gama Ghazi was given the task to organize squads, and all these massacres which happened in Buddhal and Chasana were
Hmm.
the handiwork of Gama Ghazi. And incidentally, he was killed by a native of one of the villages who was working with the army as a guide. There
Hmm.
is one story of Budal. Second story is the great story of Thakur Singh. I mentioned I mentioned in my book about Thakur Singh's story. There's an extraordinary story. The great man who refused to leave his religion and who continued to seek blessings of the gurus for the safety and survival of Hindus and Sikhs. And finally, he managed to escape from the clutches of Sakhi Dilawar, the man who ran the Kangro court in Rajouri, and he reached the Indian Army's place where they were stationed, and he came with the victorious Indian Army when Rajouri was liberated on 12th of April 1948.
That's there are wonderful, very chilling, heartfelt, very amazing stories which are into this book, and this book is a treasure trove. Certainly, this is a reference book, and we can just read it dispassionately, as it's not against any community or color or
No, no,
religion.
no.
It's
That's
about the
not
history.
because
It's
once you are, yes, because the entire thing was organized by Pakistan government,
there's nothing,
the setting
no
up the
local Hindu
concentration.
Muslim had any role to play in it.
No, 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 no. We should. That is
Because
never.
this
I
should be
never.
taken in that context. I want to ask one more thing. Uh, these Pashtun, these tribals, these medieval tribals, who were columned and put forth everywhere, and somewhere they had because they had the guidance from the army that you have to do it ethnic cleansing. Otherwise, looking at their animal behavior, did they also hit some people from the Muslim community when they were not controlled by the
In
rank and
fact,
file?
in fact, during this, there was one conference here. I don't know when. I think 10, 15 years back. SAFMA delegation. SAFMA.
Yes, sir.
So there was an Indo-Indian Pakistani journalist. One of the journalists, Mr. Abdul Khan, he visited Muthi camp.
Hmm.
I was posted in Muthi camp. Then I narrated to, I showed a person, Mr. Maheshwarnath Pandita. His father was killed in Muzaffarabad. That story I given in Gulab Ram Pandit. And his
Okay.
son and brother were killed in 1990.
Hmm.
I introduced that person to Abdul Khan. Then Mr. Abdul Khan later happened to meet Mr. Sham Kolji,
Hmm.
and he told him that when these Pashtun tribesmen came back, retreating tribesmen came back to Lahore, they started looting the Muslim shops also there. They become a
Also,
nuisance there also.
they lost the
So
control of the central command of the rank and file. So they were on
the
their
whole
own, and they were
yes, the whole thing was there was an agreement between Khan Abdul Qayyum Khan and the tribesman leaders that all war booty, the rapes and killings, the everything would belong to them. There was and Colonel and shamelessly Colonel Akbar Khan
what a shame.
justifies. He said there was no other incentive for tribesmen. He
There
justifies
was
all
no,
this.
yeah,
You,
yeah. That is what
I
that a
mentioned in
right
my book.
line I read. My goodness, that's a red line. And this
That is a
and this
uh,
Ayub Khan, he had an ancestry from Kulgam, and he had a Kashmiri ancestry.
no,
Yet,
not Kulgam.
which
He
place?
belongs to Patan area, Wanigam,
Wanigam.
Wanigam.
Okay.
Huh.
Well, Kashmiri
He's
ancestry he had. He had a
not
Kashmiri.
Kashmiri. He was a Kashmiri because his father was serving in NWFP,
Okay. Northwestern Frontier
and
area.
uh, and you'll feel surprised if I tell you interesting thing. He was with Congress
Earlier, he
till
was with
42,
Congress.
43. Yes, yes.
He was with Congress.
I
That
have
is written in
quoted
the book.
Khan.
That's written in the
Yeah,
book.
I have quoted Khan Wali Khan's memoir where he gives reasons why he was taking undue interest in other things.
What about
I
Liaquat
discussed
Ali
the whole
Khan?
thing.
Liaquat Ali Khan, we cannot go up to that level, but at least the directives came from the here, the whole philosophy, the
The
concept.
whole. The whole
model.
Jinnah was, I have mentioned in my book and purposely discussed the role of Jinnah and Liaquat because unfortunately some narratives they say Jinnah was kept ignorant, then Liaquat Ali Khan was not doing it, then it was being done by Khan, Abdul Qayyum Khan and other things. The entire Pakistan top government, army, bureaucracy was involved in the exercise. I have given enough instances in my book. That is why I kept the introductory section Pakistani invasion and I described it under four headings: early information, the invasion plans, how
Yeah,
invasion was actually
meticulously,
conducted, role of different
meticulous, and
elements.
you have chosen your narrative and writing style is very lucid, and it is very naturally. I mean, did you just create a kind of a writing style for the for connecting all these incidents and all this, assimilating
Yes, yes.
everything?
There is a style because I worked out that style. There are three things
Okay,
which were consideration for me.
okay.
One was, should I do it in a fiction form? I felt I should not do. I believe facts on such things like Holocaust should
Holocaust, you
always
cannot.
be narrated in a
Textualization is
non-fiction
not
form.
good. Yes.
Yes. Second consideration was dramatization, the way Lapierre Collins have done.
Yeah.
Since it was not a commercial exercise for me, why should I dramatize a human tragedy? Why should I
Mm,
dramatize Holocaust? We are there, as Hannah I have quoted this Hannah Arendt also. We
mm,
should not do something that dramatizes Holocaust. We should understand the Holocaust. We should rather present the Holocaust, how it occurred, the context, and what other things. So that also a rule out. Third thing is objectivity and empathy.
mm.
Objective is very important because
Objectivity,
objective is
without
doing
objectivity, you
justice.
cannot go an inch. Yeah. For,
Yes, objective is
in
doing
such kind of
justice.
historiography,
And
because
I
writing
tried
a
my
historiography. Yeah.
yes, because after all, it is historiography of the Pakistani invasion, how it impacted the minorities.
Yeah.
And in fact, I tried my best, even in the accounts which are purely oral history. I have added certain corroborative secondary sources also. There are two types of secondary sources. One is the
Mm.
memoirs who are directly involved in the situation. They are virtually primary sources.
They are primary
So,
source.
whatever you say, it should be verifiable. Second, if any other researcher in the future he wants to take up this further, at least I quoted the references, books, pages, so
Yeah,
that
you
it
are
will be
very
easy for
detailed.
him to work out. I tried whatever I could,
But
and then
most of its
empathy also.
characters, most of excepting for the memoirs and the written history, most of the people who you have interviewed, they might not be living for long. I mean, now, I mean, for 10 years, 20 years
No,
from now.
because this work I started in December 1909, and in
Okay.
fact, Professor K.N. Pandita was the first person I
Ah,
interviewed for this
great man.
exercise.
He's a great man.
He
He is
has
the
been
first-hand witness of the
yes,
Baramulla
he
and
has
other
been a
places.
great inspiration in the exercise. He must have come personally to at least 10, 20 situations and photographs. Whenever I asked him, I need a particular photograph, and to which he had access to some to that through some relation. You will not believe. Within 24 hours, he arranged those photographs.
He's a he's a
So,
gem of a man.
yes, he must
Very
have
brilliant,
accompanied
very
me. Then there
unique,
are other people.
living
Then
legend.
there are other people who also helped in this. Mr. Kuldeep Rana is very dear friend. He must have come to 50 to 60 places with me. Then another friend of ours, Mr. Lenin Bhatt. He also arranged interviews with about 30 or 40 people. Then Mr. Rajnath Rana ji, he retired as principal in education department. Then Mr. Kanyalalji Bagati, Mr. T.N. Bhatt of Baramulla, who despite a personal tragedy, his son was killed in Gulgulabgarh, that massacre.
Oh,
He at least he arranged 30, 40 people. So this huge exercise would not have been possible had
Shailendar
there
also.
not been this.
You have mentioned
No,
Shailendar also.
Shailendra was in living in Jammu, and so he had not access to these places because suppose I had to conduct interviews in Tangmarg area, so I would need a person from Tangmarg area. So if interviews were to be conducted in Badgam, so I need a
You need a
person who
person
was
from that
known
area.
to. So in that, I was able to arrange resource, but then Mr. Hiralal Chatta also.
Chata Sagar.
poor Chata Saab. Whenever I told him I had to interview these people, you will not believe. He would leave his other important assignments. He would accompany. He once came with me to Udhampur.
Oh, anyway, we'll call it a day now. Anything
Yes,
else you
thank
want to
you.
add? Any note, any end note you want to
No,
say,
no,
tell
no,
about
no.
this book?
Thank you very much once again for hosting me on
Thank you.
today's talk show. I am
Thank
really
you.
grateful to you.
It's a real
Thank you
pleasure
so much.
that you came and we had
No,
complete
no, no.
understanding
Thank
about
you.
your own
Thank you. I
life
think
and about
we had a good
Iqbal's ancestry
discussion.
and the book. Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank you very
Jugalji.
much. All the
Good
best.
night.
Best wishes.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. So that was Ramesh Tamiri, and we had a book talk today on his book, this Pakistan's invasion on J&K, 1947-48, Untold Stories of Victims, and it is his hard research, and I know, the labor of love which he has put into it to just unravel the real, actual happenings very dispassionately, as he's a very, 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 very marvelous researcher who doesn't work with some subjectivity, and he deciphers. He takes his own time, and unless or until he's a corroborative evidence, second level interest, he doesn't work. And he has got, there are wonderful photographs in this book, and there are so many explanations, so many interviews, and it is good that he has come up, because this will be a guidebook for all of us, all of us, Kashmiris, especially Kashmiris, and non-Kashmiris in Jammu and Kashmir, Dogras, Punjabis, who were all victim, irrespective of caste, creed, color, religion, who are victim to this. And certainly, it might not have mentioned some people like Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah's role in creating another aspect. Maybe it comes in his next book, but certainly we had very, very, very wonderful people also around, uh, especially the names he gave, a long list of people that who helped, who are highly humanistic, and their traits were really full of compassion, full of the deep feelings, human feelings and human brotherhood, who helped, irrespective of what was the game plan by the high ups and Jinnah and Liaquat Ali Khan and Qayyum Khan to create it at communal carnage, and it turned out to be a communal carnage. Yet there were lot many Kashmiris, lot many people, lot many Gujar people from Sharda, who, despite of being not from that religion, they all came to the rescue of the people. That is how humanity survives, and we all must learn something. This is a book one must purchase and understand how these things happen. You know, at the in the back of in the time at the backyard at around 1947. Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure that you all came and witnessed today's conversation. And certainly, this is available on our archives, and we can go and just visit. You can send me your details and questions as you send me on our messenger and other places. Thanks a lot once again. Good night.